You are live.
Good morning, and welcome to the Golden African Dawn. I know we're driving at 150 miles an hour, but there is a good reason for it. We're heading to some lions, hopefully, at Arathusa. Thank you for all of you watching the dam cam and for alerting us to the presence of the lions, Africa's biggest cat, during Big Cat Week. My name is James Henry. On camera we have Wium Durenbrach. Good morning, Wium. Wium has his morning coffee. Where's your coffee, Wium? Ah, there it is. Good, in a travel mug. Right. In the final control, we've got Geraldine, sorry, not Gerald at all. And I was indicating there, I'm not sure why. And Kirsty. And on the other vehicle, we've got Hayden, Turner, and Andrew. And on the tracking team, Scott, the two trackers, Brian, and one or two other passengers, all along for the ride. So, you're most welcome. Please remember, for those of you who perhaps join us for the first time, or if you're joining us because of the TV broadcast we've been doing over the course of the last week, we are live, completely unedited, from the African bush, and we'd like to talk to you. Hashtag SafariLIVE if you're tweeting, like the white-browed scrub robin we've just been past, or questions at WildEarth.tv if you'd rather be on the email. We're heading, like I say, to the western sector of our traversing area, and we're in an area of 8 million acres, 3.5 million hectares. That's the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. Part of that is the Kruger National Park. The western section of that is the Sabi Sands, where this collection of private farms that we're on now, and we traverse about 5,000 to 6,000 acres in this particular area. 1,500 hectares. Whew, it's quite difficult to understand, but here we are. Yesterday, of course, we had two of the Birmingham boys here, and I think it's the same ones that are here, around about the Arathusa Dam. It was extremely hot yesterday, and I think it was probably exactly the same two that we're going to try and have a look at now. There were also lions. There was one lion, and a very injured old boy, lurking around Juma. He moved away at some stage during the night, and apparently there were 3 we know all this. We've got dam cameras stationed, one at the Juma Dam, which is the one just outside where we operate, and then one here at the Arathusa Dam just to the west. Our ever-reliable viewers, keep an eye on them, probably in the bottom corners of their work PC computer screens, while they sit in the office and they draw a bit of inspiration from the African wilderness as they work. So that's the plan this morning. The plans normally go awry out here. It's generally what happens, because it's very difficult to make any plans in the bush. Anything can happen at any stage. Right, let's head across to Scott. He's going to explain to you about the different things they're going to be doing on tracking team today, and we'll carry on to the lions and hopefully see you soon with them. See you just now.
Hello and welcome on board the tracking team this morning. We're trying something a little bit new, and Jeffrey, who's sitting up front on the tracker seats, and Bright, who's behind us at the moment, but he will get in front of the camera a little bit later, so you'll get to meet him as well, have been working tirelessly since the beginning of Big Cat Week and doing some great work tracking animals and finding us some great sightings. So we thought this morning would be a wonderful opportunity to introduce you guys to them, let you get to know them a bit better, and also just see what the art of tracking is all about. It's not going to be easy for us to portray because a lot of the tracks that they see, it's on the radio. Okay. But we are confident, like I said earlier, that we'll find some tracks somewhere at some stage and then start the very slow and at the moment quite painful task of following the tracks. The reason why it's quite painful at the moment is that the ground is very hard. From the rain that we've been getting, it kind of solidifies the earth's crust like cement or concrete. And until animals have walked over it and many hooves have churned it up, an animal like a leopard or a lion doesn't leave a very big indentation in the ground. So not easy to see the tracks at the moment, but we're going to do our best. In the meantime, though, we're going to send you across to one of the other vehicles for an update on what's going on with them. See you later.
Well, good morning everyone from this magnificent location, and just following on from James and the bushwalk, and just say hi to you all. Welcome to Safari Live. My name's Hayden. I've got Andrew on camera here with me, and I've also got an Emmy Award-winning National Geographic photographer with us here, Philippe D'Andrati. I've got that name right, Philippe?
You sure did.
And Philippe's with us as well this morning, which is great to have him on board. The new blood coming up through National Geographic, so it's absolutely fantastic to have him on the back of the vehicle too. Wow. That's what it's all about. Every single day we wake up, that without fail comes up as well and just blows our mind. Being here in the African bush like we are today, it has started with something as magnificent as that all the time, and it just makes you know you're alive. Welcome aboard. Great to have you with us. If you're a first-time Safari Live guest, welcome, welcome, welcome. You're on the biggest safari vehicle on the planet. And if you're a regular, great to have you back with us. And you know, James has probably told you, you can interact with us. That's the most important thing. You can ask us questions through #SafariLive on Twitter or questions@wildearth.tv. I'm out of the tent, which I love the tent, but I tell you what, it's great to be back in this beautiful vehicle as well, and it's great to be out in the bush. And we've got some serious action happening this morning. I think James is on his way to Arathusa. We're just going to tootle around this area. We just watched this sunrise, which is spectacular, and I'm going to have a talk to everyone today. If there's any classes watching, any school children and teachers watching, please send us an email or a tweet. We'd love to interact with you. I've got this unofficial little program going over the next couple of weeks called Operation Wild Child. I want to get as many of you guys out there connected with nature, and if we can do that through Safari Live, that is absolutely fantastic for us. Ask us as many questions as we can, as you can, sorry, and we'll try and answer them as well. So without further ado, I think we'll just go around quarantine and have a bit of a look around in this beautiful morning light and see what we can find. I think I saw some zebra and wildebeest over the other side, which always looks beautiful at this time of the morning. They look beautiful any time of the day, but we'll go and see what we can find. So it's been an amazing week. An amazing week. It's got a lovely question straight away. That's brilliant, guys, from Anton. Have I ever been charged by an animal, and what did I do? I have been charged by an animal. The closest call I've ever had was with a black rhinoceros in Zimbabwe. And what happened was, Anton, I was very, very green, I was very young, and I was doing some what's called radio tracking. And that means that we have a radio collar on the rhinoceros, and I had to follow it for days and days and days and see what its movements were on this new property in Zimbabwe. Anyway, the radio telemetry equipment that we use is like a handheld aerial. Looks like a television aerial. You sort of stick up the old-fashioned ones. It's on a handle, and it's connected to a piece of equipment that you have around your neck, hanging around your neck, and some earphones on. And when the animal is active, it gives out a little beep, beep, beep signal. So I was following, and when that signal starts to get stronger, you know you're getting closer to the animal. I think I was about 26 or 27 when I was doing this, and it was in the middle of winter. So in the middle of winter, a lot of this vegetation has no leaves on it. It gets very, very dry. It's pretty much the same color as a rhino as well. And rhinos, as you probably know, don't have fantastic eyesight, but they've got a great sense of smell and a great sense of hearing. And the ground that I was walking on was a little bit like, if you can imagine walking across an area covered in potato crisps. Every single footstep you took, you made noise. And I could hear this signal getting stronger and stronger. And I was with two trackers and another person with me. And I knew that this signal was so strong that I was in a very, very precarious situation. I couldn't get out of it, unfortunately. and I took one step forward and this rhino charged, and I just saw these two ears come round, and all I heard was coming through the bush at me, and I crouched down behind a small tree, and everyone else had these fantastic trees that they could climb. My tree was about that round, and I just spoke languages that I never knew I could speak. And sure enough, the rhino charged and got to about the front of the vehicle away from me and turned away. See the colour of my hair? I used to have black hair before that. So that was the only time that I've ever really come close. There's been lots of others, and I have to say, just to be honest, on a real serious note, that was a serious situation. But I have to tell you now that we learn over time how far and how close you can get to animals. And I heard James giving a great explanation of it yesterday when he was very close to those buffalo on foot. What we try and do is we try and work with that invisible range that doesn't disturb the animal, and we make sure that we don't encroach on that animal's invisible range. That little sort of zone between the animal and you to make it feel uncomfortable, and you've got that syndrome or called fight or flight. They will either run away or they will protect themselves because they feel cornered. We don't do that. We don't do that intentionally or unintentionally. We watch animals from as far the right distance and try not to change their behaviour, and that's the whole thing about what wildlife viewing and going out in the bush is all about. Great question. I hope I answered that. Not too long. Right, so we're going to carry on along here and see if we can pick up some tracks. There was leopard in this area yesterday. See what we come along. I've got my lucky porcupine quill here somewhere. We'll give that a bit of a rub later and see what we can come up with. But let's cross over to James, and I think he's with something quite beautiful. See just now.
Hello everybody, we're here in Arathusa, and unfortunately there are already 3 Arathusa vehicles at the lions, which means we can't go in there for the next little while. We will keep you posted. We will try and get in there as soon as we can. It's very important, however, that you understand that we don't want to pressure animals too much, and so we never put more than 3 vehicles into a sighting at a time. And given the fact that those lions were lying right in front of Arathusa camp, it's hardly surprising that they've chosen to go out there on game drive and start with the lions, just as we did. Anyway, we'll hang around the general vicinity. We're here on the airstrip. Lovely breeze coming in from where the sun is rising. Some zebra, a wildebeest, and some impala, all enjoying the openness provided by this airstrip. The grazing is probably not the best, but it does provide them with an ability to see anything like those lions which might be wanting to come and eat them. You can see there is the wildebeest. He's on his own. Because he's on his own, he's hanging around with possibly some company he wouldn't necessarily keep if he had some more wildebeest around him, but he'll stick with the zebra and the impala because of the extra ears and eyes that they provide. There we go. Very peaceful morning, not a tremendously loud dawn chorus. I suspect everything is extremely hot from yesterday still. Hello, Derek Johnson. Please remember, when you do ask us a question, everybody, tell us where you're from. It really is lovely to hear exactly where in the world you happen to be calling us from. Nat Geo Wild Big Cat Week ends on Friday, Derek. Derek wanted to know when it was or how long Big Cat Week lasts. So we've got Wednesday, Thursday and Friday left, and we'll finish it off with a fireside chat at 6:30 on Friday evening. So that's when Big Cat Week ends. It's been such an excitement, I must say, to be involved in something like this, and I hope we are able to do it again. Let's just have a little look there. You can see this is a particularly good time, of course, for young animals. We've had a little bit of rain. Some of the grass is starting to sprout. We haven't had a lot of rain, mind, and you can see some junior zebras that have just been born. Well, perhaps not just been born, but certainly still suckling. And also, of course, all the impala are starting to drop their lambs more and more every day. Little impala lambs all over the place. I'm just going to get hold of Cedric quickly and see if we can't get an idea of when we can get into the lions. Cedric, do you copy? Sean or Ryan, do you copy? That's interesting. Anyway, we'll keep you posted on those lines. Try and get into them at some stage soon. Right, let's move along gently along here. Let's try and get you a slightly better view of these animals. Hello, Rich King. Rich King, I'm assuming your name is Richard and you're not in fact some form of a well-endowed, that's really the wrong word, well-moneyed royalty. Oops, I slipped the tongue there. Rich, you want to know if I've ever filmed anything landing off the airstrip? Excuse me. Not on this airstrip, I haven't. Wium, have you filmed anything landing? Wium has. Oh, I've got a frog in my throat. Brief bout of consumption. Sorry, Rich, I will get back to you. This is the airstrip from Arathusa, and a lot of their guests do land on the plane. It's a really nice way to come into the local, sort of out of Africa-esque. Flying in from Johannesburg, landing on the airstrip here, and going straight to a safari lodge. It's a wonderful way to do it, Rich. I'm just quickly talking on the radio here. Okay, copy that. I'll go and have a look again on the driver. Alright, so apparently there were some other lions here, 3, I think, females around here as well yesterday, and so we're going to go and see if we can't find their tracks now. If we can, well, then we'll be very lucky to view them. The 2 males are now moving slowly in this direction, so that's pretty good. While we're driving along looking for the lion tracks, Sleepy One, you'd like to know how long zebras live. Zebras live probably like many of their similar sized antelope, or not antelope, herbivores. They probably live for about 15 years if they're lucky. Otherwise, I suspect the average is probably around 12 to 13 years. I suspect in captivity they could probably live up to 20, it's like a wild horse. Out here, you know, as soon as you start to lose condition, as soon as muscle mass starts to reduce, you're going to find that, you know, you'll get picked off pretty quickly by some of the predators. And Nikki in Minnesota, where I'm pretty sure it's a lot colder than it is here. It always looks cold on the TV in Minnesota. You want to know, are zebras the same as, or are they basically a horse? They're from the same genus. I don't know what your knowledge of biological taxonomy is, but a genus, so we're all classified into genus and species. Human beings are Homo sapiens. Homo is our genus, sapiens is our species. And zebra are Equus burchelli, so that's their genus, is Equus burchelli, their species, and horses come from the same genus, so they are Equus, but they're not the same species. Now what that means is it's a bit like lions and tigers. They're the same genus but not the same species. They can interbreed, but they don't produce what we call viable offspring, so the offspring would never be able to breed again. So like if a tiger and a lion mate, they produce a liger which is infertile. And the same would happen, I'm not sure it's ever happened with horses and donkeys, but certainly what's happened is that you can do it with a donkey and horses, I'm losing my train of thought, I had the radio going in my ear. Zebra and horses, I'm not sure if they've ever interbred. Certainly donkeys and zebra have, they produce something called a zonky, which is a ridiculous name for a ridiculous animal, and it's like a mule, it's infertile. So yes, they are horses as much as donkeys or horses? Good question, thank you for that. So we're just going to get to the other side of the airstrip and in towards the east. Lenny, while we're talking about safaris and lodges, we just came past Arathusa there, and this is their airstrip. You want to know what they do between safari drives? Just one second, Lenny, I will get back to you. Go ahead. Yeah, I filmed it. I'm heading towards the driveway. Are you sure I'm not going to disturb the sighting? Thank you very much. Chaps, the lions are heading right here, and Ryan said we can have a look at them. Haha! Very exciting. Lenny, safari guests, because they have to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and then they eat an enormous breakfast after their morning drive, normally go flat out on their backs, fast asleep between drives, and sometimes they'll go on a bushwalk, say in the middle of the day, but normally it's rest and relaxation, especially when it's hot. Have a swim. Lions are coming in from the east here. I'm not sure where exactly. But they are. Oh no, sorry, that's another vehicle. Matthew, you want to know how far the Birmingham boys travelled between here and we're just going to stand by here. There are 3 vehicles around the place. How are they going? Okay, we'll wait here. So, Matthew, they haven't travelled very far at all. Less than a mile, actually. And I'm just going to get out of this area. We'll have a look now, everyone. I just don't want to... We only have 3 vehicles in the sighting, like I say. Here. I don't want to get in the way of that sighting. It is obviously they weren't expecting the lions to come straight towards us. So we'll just go back here. Go ahead. Okay, copy that. Thank you. We'll wait here. Let's head across to the bushwalk, get a quick update from them, and we'll stand by here, and as soon as we have those lions, we'll come across to them.
Okay. Welcome back to the tracking team, everyone. I'm here with Jeffrey Mabaza, and he has found us some tracks. They're not of lion or leopard, which we were hoping for, but what are these tracks, Jeffrey?
These tracks for the rhino. It's a fresh track of a rhino.
Okay.
Yeah. If you can see here, they've got 3 toes. These have 2 toes.
2 on the side there.
And 1 in the middle.
Okay.
And also the segment. It's different from that one of a hippo. Hippo have got 4 toes, 2 in the middle and 1 and 2 at the side.
Okay.
It is facing outside the outer toe.
Okay.
Of the hippo.
And
this one is facing forward.
Okay. And hippo and rhino are the only 2 that you'd get confused because elephants have got no toes. So I think that's why Jeffrey made sure he gave you the main comparisons between 2 tracks that you would likely confuse. Now we're going to introduce you to Bright shortly, and there's some other tracks on the other side of the road that he would like to talk about. Come across here, Bright. And this is Bright Masia, the other tracker you didn't meet earlier. There's only enough space for 1 person on the hood of the vehicle. And here's some other tracks on the road that he would like to explain to you. What have we got here, Mr. Bright?
Here we've got a track of a zebra. They're walking along the road.
Which way, going?
Going south.
Okay.
The track of a zebra, sometimes you can confuse with the buffalo.
Yeah.
As you can see, it's a round shape.
Yeah.
But then that one of a buffalo, the hoof here at the tip of at the end of they are not joined.
Okay.
That one of a buffalo.
Yeah.
But this one you can see it's round.
Yeah.
All over.
It's just one hoof, whereas a buffalo might have or has a piece, down the middle.
Yes. And also it have a stepper here. I mean a frog. We call it a frog.
Okay.
Here at the back of the track.
Okay.
That act as a shock absorber.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a track of a zebra.
Okay, so I guess a lot of you will be realizing that Bright and Jeffrey's eyes are a little bit better than ours when it comes to seeing tracks on the ground, but we're going to rush you back to the lions and keep looking for some lion and leopard tracks.
There they are, everybody. We're just having a quick glimpse. The guys have very kindly made a space for us to have a quick look at them. Look at that, 2 Birmingham boys walking down south in the golden light. Just a wonderful sight here. They're on the patrol. I think it's going to get very hot today. I think they'll go to sleep fairly soon. Isn't that a wonderful picture? We're just going to stay here. We're not going to move at the moment. Like I say, they've very kindly made a space for us, and their guests from Arathusa Safari Lodge are really enjoying the sighting, and thankfully we're able to enjoy it too. Isn't he lovely there? The other one is just behind him. There he comes. Now, I do so enjoy these questions that we get. Zephyr Bro, we want to know if male lions stay with the pride and help raise the cubs. Remember, the lion social structure, Zephyr Bro, is such that we will go and have another look, I promise. Is such that the males are not actually part of the pride. The pride is the females and their related offspring, and the males kind of, so a big coalition like this of 5 will dominate 3 or 4 prides in their territory, and so they're not part of the pride. They play the only role they play in kind of raising the cubs is to try and protect them from other males. They do that more by default than they do through any kind of conscious effort. So the males will look after an area and make sure other males don't come into it, and that ensures the safety of the young cubs, and that's basically how it works. Just going to reverse back here again. You can maybe get another view of them. But while we're doing that, let's go across to Hayden. Let's go across to Hayden and see what he's got, and I'll post him what's going on here.
Folks, this is one of the most beautiful things about this time of the year is impala and wildebeest and zebra giving birth to their offspring, and we've come across this beautiful little herd of impala and a creche of impala fawns or lambs, and they're a little bit sort of out of shot at the moment because it's probably the first sort of 2 or 3 days that they're bringing their fawns out of cover, or their lambs. So what they do is they'll give birth in the enclosed sort of vegetation, and then they'll start to bring their lambs out after they're about 2 or 3 days old and they've got some strength, and they form these beautiful little creches. Now I'm going to try and get up a little bit closer just so I can get Andrew a better shot, and I want you to see these babies because they are so beautiful. Let's see how we go here without disturbing them. They've moved into some sort of vegetation here, so I'm not going to pursue them too much, but I just want to get you one shot of these little youngsters, 2, 3 days old, 4 days old, beautiful. They're all in a little creche, and the only real time they go to their mums, they normally stay in this little creche. This will be a nice shot just here, Andrew. Can you get through there, mate, or not? Is that all right for you?
Perfect.
Just see those little guys. So question from Remy asking whether the impalas drop their lambs in the evening or the day. Majority of the time, I think it'd be the day, Remy, and they go off into the vegetation and find a quiet spot, and they give birth, and then they would tend to their lamb and nurse it for a short time, and then the lamb has that instinctual behaviour where it'll hide, and the mother will either come back out and graze and then come back and tend to it again for the next few days, and that's why they're in this vegetation now. So not all of the lambs are actually have dropped. There's a few females in there that are still pregnant, but mainly during the day, Remy. That's because that would be an adaptation. Majority of the predators are more active at night and in the sort of afternoon hours or the cooler hours of the day. So that would probably be an adaptation for them. We've got a few walking down across in front of us now, so we might see them a little bit closer. They're quite used to us. There's a couple of females being quite attentive at the moment to something. I'm not really sure what, but they're all looking around. As soon as they go into that thicker vegetation, they're risking potential. Okay, so I'm just going to cross over to James. I think he's got some really, really beautiful creatures for you to see. I'll be back with you just now.
So they've just come across the airstrip here, and I knew this would happen as the heat started to build. They're getting very tired. The other one is still moving a little bit. I suspect this chap will have to get up and move again too, but at the moment he's just far too exhausted by the exertions of his evening. I don't think he did a huge amount yesterday evening. They haven't, like I say, I don't think they've moved more than a mile from where they were before. And they'll go and find some shade. I mean, it's probably now only about maybe 5:45 if we're lucky, and it's already starting to get hot. We're staring down the barrel of a day that's going to reach probably 105 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Celsius, which is quite something. Let's go and see if we can have another look at the other one. The other one's just gone in here. He's lifted his head. So let's just wait here and see what he does. Hello, Anthony. You want to know if they have like an alpha male? Is there dominance hierarchy in a coalition like this? There isn't normally a strict dominance hierarchy, no. It's based purely on size. So if one happens to be bigger than the other, then he's going to dominate at kills. He'll probably also monopolize a few of the mating opportunities. But you'll find that they will absolutely share mating opportunities, and it's not a hugely kind of hierarchical society. Now, there's some impala you might be able to hear, or some other animals alarm calling. Go. Lovely. There was a female around, and apparently they were mating, and that update comes from Mary. Thank you, Mary. You've obviously been watching the damn cam. Wonderful stuff. Thank you very much for your update. He's got a bit of a limp on him. His front right foot is definitely bugging him. Maybe not his foot. It might be the leg. It might be the shoulder. Remember that the shoulder is tremendously important to them. These lions are used for fighting, for catching things. He's coming out now, getting into the thick shade, and we'll try and follow them in there. Marvelous stuff. I haven't seen these lions for some time. Hello, sleepy one again. You're clearly awake now. And we want to know how old these lions are. I think they're just over 5. They're certainly not quite as big as they are going to get. I'll discuss that just now. They're probably about 5.5 years old. And you can tell that from the colour of their noses. The noses are almost completely black. They go completely black by the time that they are 6 years old. I'm just trying to see them again. Bianchi, can you see them? Just going into the glories there now. We have got a vehicle that can get through an area like this. There's a big safari or some kind of struggle. So we should be okay. I want to push in front of everybody. It would be very bad at getting out of here. Just to ease our way through here, and I'm sure for our new viewers, there they go. Our new viewers, it might be a little bit disconcerting. You can just see the feet moving there. Isn't that lovely? Lovely picture. Disconcerting to see us driving over the odd bush. Most of them will pop up behind us, and so I wouldn't worry about them too much. We do try and be as careful as possible, and we don't run over any of the sort of rarer species like jackleberries or maroon trees. Many of the bush willows and acacias will just pop up behind us. So it does sound a lot worse than it looks. Now, Clive, you're in Georgia. You want to know how big the territory is that the Birmingham boys are trying to sort of establish themselves in. Clive, it's probably about 15,000 hectares. So you multiply that by 2.5, about 40,000 acres. 40 to 50,000 acres, maybe even up to 60,000 acres. They're still establishing themselves in the area, so that's eventually what it will probably be if they manage to maintain themselves here. Let's head across the bushwalk and stop and see what they're getting up to. I'll try and get into a decent position to look at these lions. We'll see you in a little while.
So, as you can see, we are off the vehicle, and good news, Jeffrey, who was sitting up on the hood of the vehicle, spotted some leopard tracks, but the trackers don't seem to think they're very fresh. Bright, Jeffrey, why is it that you think these tracks aren't too fresh?
As you can see, the track, if it's fresh, you can see it's still shining, and as you know, the genets and the civet, they walk. The
other small animals. Yeah. So you can see other small tracks. It'll be very difficult for you to see, but Bright spotted a tiny little track here of a nocturnal animal called a genet. Its track is probably only as big as the tip of my thumb, and he's seen these tracks walking on top of the leopard track, so that's one indication of why they're not fresh. I guess another one, Jeffrey, would be that they're not very crisp and clear. You can't see the tracks very clearly, but if they were fresh, you'd be able to see them a lot more clearly. So, this is what I was saying. The level of attention to detail of being able to decipher what's gone on, not only with the animal that they're tracking, but also with all the other animals that are moving through this area, really is phenomenal. And not only is it impressive, but it's critical for them to be able to analyze the tracks to a degree that they can, and then work out whether they're fresh enough to follow and work out exactly what this animal's doing. Either way, now, even though these tracks are not very fresh, like we've said, they are leading us to the Buffelshoek waterhole, and there will be a leopard at the end of this trail of footprints. It's just about trying to catch up to it now, and with these two guys hot on its trail, I am hoping it won't be too long before we do get some fresh tracks. Cool, let's carry on. Now, as we head down towards the Buffelshoek waterhole, we're going to send you back to James, and you're going to get one more view of those lions.
Right, everybody, I know this is far from the ideal sighting there. Here he comes in front of us, but they are going to cross a boundary that we are not going to be able to, I think, if they carry on in this direction. They're heading in an easterly direction, and they're heading we can't, we've probably got another, maybe quarter mile before they hit a boundary that we can't cross. Isn't that lovely? It's a coalition of 5 males, and they've split into 2 and 3 at the moment. In fact, one of them, the oldest member of the coalition, they're not all the same age. He's taken a bit of a beating, we think, from the others. I think the coalition is actually fracturing, and that's dangerous for them. They're trying to establish themselves in this territory. They're going to start fighting amongst each other now. The chances of surviving as a coalition in the future are very small indeed. Ooh, there they go. And Janet, we were just chatting about the injured one, where he might be. I don't know where he is, Janet. Whoops. That was a tyre. I'm afraid this is going to be the last sighting we have of these lions. We're not going to be moving anywhere from here. There they go. They're wandering through into the bush. It's okay, we were going to lose them anyway. Okay, let's head across to Hayden, and we're going to sit here, wait for the lions to disappear, and we'll change our tyre. See you just now. Bye-bye.
Folks, we've just been driving around this block here. We had those beautiful little impala, and they just moved off into some thicker vegetation. So at that age, you know, they're not that confident, and the parents aren't that confident as well. So we just want to take it a little bit easy with them. You never want to push them into moving too quickly and moving into that vegetation, because there could be a predator in there. So we watched from afar, beautiful, and we'll try and catch up with them again. We just saw some leopard tracks here, a female leopard. So we're just going to tootle around this area and do a bit of a block. And what we do with that is if we see tracks go in to what we call a block, which is just like an area, it doesn't necessarily have to be the shape of a square, but if we drive the perimeter and we go along the roads and we don't see that those leopard tracks come out, we can sort of say that we think there might be a leopard in there. Then we start to look in trees and we see if there's any kills hanging in trees, and also just sort of keep our eyes open where we think leopard may be resting up. It's still quite cool. It's going to be a hot day, there's no doubt about that, but it's still quite cool. There's a breeze blowing. We're just going to carry on and have a look and see what we can see. It's early. We've got loads of time. We've got a question from Mandy, whose 6-year-old is watching. Hello, whatever your name is. Great to have you aboard. This is brilliant. Operation Wildchild, Lieutenant Operation Wildchild reporting for duty, sir, ma'am, whoever it is. Fantastic to have you on board. How powerful is a leopard's bite? Well, it's not as powerful or as strong as a hyena, that's for sure, but it's still really powerful. I couldn't tell you the exact what we call pounds per square inch, and the way they measure that is with a special machine, and the animal would bite onto it. Now, I can look that up for you, or maybe I could get someone in our final control to look that up for you and maybe give you that information. But very powerful. It has really, really big muscles on their head. So on the sides of their head, just like we have muscles in our arms for lifting things up, they've got fantastic muscles in their head that go up onto this special area on the back of their skull. And it's a big word, and you probably don't have to remember this ever until later on when you do biology at a higher level at school. It's called a sagittal crest. And it's a pretty cool thing because you see it on their skulls, and I love my skulls, as you've probably seen in the tent when I'm there. And those big muscles join onto that, and that's what gives the leopard and the lion and the wild dog and any carnivore, any meat-eating animal in the cats or the dogs or the hyenas have that big muscle, and that's what gives them the power. So you've got to watch out, and that's what allows them to go onto their prey animal and give that fatal bite. Great question, and thanks for being our first Operation Wildchild for this morning. Right, let's go and see if we can find ourselves one of those beautiful cats. You never know what's around the next corner. this is the best. This is now we've got Stacey, who's 6 years old. I've got to stop again now, Stacey, because this is Operation Wild Child reporting for duty. Fantastic to have you on board. This is so good. We've got so many kids watching, guys. This is brilliant. This is my best. Because you know what? Exactly what you're doing right now is what I used to do and watch shows like this, but it was never live, that's for sure. I used to watch a show in America, and in Australia, and your mum and dad might remember this, Stacey. Stacey, you've got a beautiful question from Colorado. Great to have you there. What a beautiful place you live in. I used to watch this show called Wild Kingdom. And it was the most fantastic show. It was an American show. I watched it as a child. And it was one of the shows that made me do what I do now. And your question is, what made me become a ranger or a guide or do this sort of a job with animals? And it was television programs like that. Exactly what you're doing right now is what spurred me on to do what I'm doing today. So if you've got it in you and this is a job that you'd love to do, all you've got to do is follow it and try and do your best and talk to as many people as you can about it. Philippe sitting on the back here is probably exactly the same. You know, he probably had dreams of working for National Geographic, and sure enough today he's doing it. So if you've got a dream and you want to follow it and you're passionate about it, mum and dad or anyone or relatives can help you do it, you've got a good chance to do it yourself. Great to have you on board, Stacey. Right, let's go and find you a cat. Or a giraffe. Or an elephant. Or a bird. Or anything. The great thing too, guys, is you know, having Andrew and the cameramen and the camera people on the back is great because they're a little bit more elevated than I am, and they can see tracks as well. So today I've got 6 eyes on the vehicle. Normally we only have 4. And one of the things I just want to tell you about tracks as well. I'm sorry, this road's a little bit bumpy, so I'm going to go slow here. This light that we've got at the moment, the angle of the sun, makes the track stand out a lot better than if the sun's directly above our head. So it's a good time to look for tracks. So what we might do is just travel down here a little bit further and see if we can see any tracks. And if we can't, we'll carry on. But Bushwalk has arrived at probably our last water point on the reserve, one of 3 of them. So let's cross over and see what they're up to. I'll see you just now.
We are back on the vehicle. No further tracks of that male leopard, but we're still confident we're going to find some sign of where he's been. But we couldn't help resist the temptation of stopping here and using the super zoom of this little bushwalk camera to take you in for a closer look at the birds, which are having a bit of a feeding frenzy here at the waterhole. There's one bird, the white one, that we don't see very often. It's an African spoonbill. And look at that bill. It's shaped just like a spoon, hence the name. And they will filter that bill through the water, looking for small aquatic invertebrates. Hopefully it won't take long before it starts doing it again. It's really awesome to watch, actually. It looks like he's getting ready. Look at how bizarre that beak is. There we go. Kind of shovels it from side to side at high speed. Look at that. It's remarkable how quickly it moves. There we go, already found a little morsel to gobble up. And another one. So it's times of plenty here for the avian predators. Now let's take you on a little bit of a tour around. There's also some less glamorous looking birds, the marabou storks, who are one of the less fortunate looking birds out here in the African wilderness. Look at that funny bald head of theirs, massive beak. Often associated with carcasses and carrion. They do a lot of scavenging when they can, but are also good hunters. One of them is hunting at the moment. Maybe let's take a closer look at that one there, Brian. It's just started hunting. You'll probably find that they've been here since first light and have already fed on so many fish that there's no major urgency for them to snack on too much more. But this one may be able to make a kill for us. Brian's doing a great job on camera. He is free-handing this shot. No tripod on the vehicle. And important that... Oh, did he get a fish there? I'm not sure. It looked like he swallowed something. Oh, there we go. It's just too easy. There was a little tilapia, it looked like, that he latched onto, he or she. Difficult to distinguish between the male and the female marabou storks. They both look very similar. A tiny little three-banded plover in the background. Getting some airtime as well. There's another fish. I think these fish are either dying or dead. There's a kind of rotting smell coming from the water's edge. And you'll probably find that there's so little oxygen left in this water that that's what's causing the fish to be very lethargic or unable to escape the marabou storks. What is going on there? The fish have just got nowhere to go. And now he's catching quite a few fish and just kind of playing with them almost, and that's probably a result of having a full belly. It would have eaten itself to a point of not having any more space left, I'm guessing, and now is just kind of playing around with its food. And in nature, these times of plenty are kind of uncommon, so if the animals don't know what to do with themselves really when they do have these. There's another one also, the one at the back also just picked up that fish, kind of tested it and flopped it back into the water. Maybe they're being fussy and only trying to feed on fish that are fresh and alive, not the dead ones. Not too sure though, because like I said, they are carrion feeders. They will happily feed on rotting carcasses. Well, hello to Barbara on Twitter, and you've brought up a good question. You'd like to know if we've got any idea of how many goslings are still moving around the Buffelshoek waterhole. And I saw them when we arrived temporarily. Oh, that night we just swallowed a fish. But I don't know where they've gone. And I've just looked back. Bright mentioned to me that it looks they may have moved over the dam wall, so they are no longer in a spot where we can view them. But there were a few goslings, I think 3 or 4 that I saw. There used to be 7 initially. So Barbara, I can't give you an exact head count, but hopefully the geese will pop back onto the scene shortly and we'll be able to show you them. The goslings are doing well though in terms of their growth and are getting quite big. Well, all seems peaceful and quiet here at the waterhole. No sign of any predators at first glance, other than obviously all the birds we're looking at. There's a hummerkop, Brian's just found. That's another predatory bird cashing in here. Now there's a pair of malachite kingfishers. I'm not sure where they are. It would be wonderful to see them again. They're incredibly beautiful, bright colors. And I think they're going to be nesting somewhere here at the waterhole, but they are so small that it's hard to keep track of them. So those are some other birds that'll be good to keep an eye out for, along with the goslings. Quite a strong breeze picking up now, which is keeping us nice and cool. Okay, well, sorry, Brian. Brian's ahead of the game here, and he's found another stork. This is the woolly-necked stork. It's interesting, they're not as relaxed with us as the other birds are, and tend to fly off when we arrive at the waterhole. That's why it's so far away, perched up at an acacia in the distance. And it's often in that same tree where some African fish eagles perch, but they're not around this morning. The other day it was such bad timing. We arrived at the waterhole to see what was going on. It was 2 days ago. Jean and myself getting ready for a bushwalk, and we saw a fish eagle swoop down from a tree on this side of the waterhole where we are parked now, and it was flying straight towards us. We were parked on the other side, kind of somewhere over there, and it caught a fish right in front of us. But sadly, the camera was not powered up, so we couldn't film the fish eagle doing that kill, but hopefully we'll get one with you guys soon. It is one thing that we have yet to be able to film. Now, Donna Wang would like to know if these tilapia that the marabou storks are feeding on are native to Africa, and they are. As far as I'm aware, they have not been introduced and are African species of tilapia. There goes another one. Great stuff. Well, we're going to be sending you over to Hayden for an update on how his morning's coming along, and we're going to keep on searching for any further signs of this male leopard.
So we're still driving around. You can have some quiet mornings like this, and you just sort of keep walking, driving around, seeing if you can pick up tracks and whatever else you bump into. And that's the beautiful thing about SafariLIVE and being in the bush. You just don't know what's around the next corner. You don't know if you're going to bump into something or whether you're going to actually follow up on something. What I'm doing now is I'm just going to head down to Treehouse Dam. Now, Treehouse Dam doesn't have any water in it, but there's still a bit of mud there, and sometimes we do find animals like to get down there and just have a bit of a mud bath, a bit of a mud wallow. We might find buffalo, we might find elephant down there, and we'll just take a little right-hander just now. It's beautiful light at the moment. We see tracks of like impala and zebra, a few other different species along the road here. Gorgeous morning here. I'm not sure the temperature, but I'll get it for you. (23 degrees Celsius and 73 degrees Fahrenheit for everyone who is in the world that works in both of those different temperature gauges. 23 Celsius, very, very mild, beautiful morning, and 73 Fahrenheit. So it's going to get hotter. It's going to be an absolute scorcher today. Goodness me, this is a good question, guys. Wow. I'm going to have to stop for this one. Sabrina, and you are 12 years old. Sabrina, this is probably one of the most fantastic questions I've had, and I'm going to answer it with true, honest sincerity to you, and I hope you're sitting with mum and dad or parents or friends or family. Sabrina, you want to know whether girls can become guides or rangers too. Well, Sabrina, absolutely, 100%. You've got to follow that up. You know, we have Jamie here. She works with us. She's absolutely incredible. And you know what? I can sit and listen to Jamie for hours and hours and hours. I learn so much from her. Absolutely. You've got to follow that up. This is as much a girl's business as a life path as it is men. It just happens to be that lots of guys or males chose this path, but there's loads of female guides and rangers around. And I think you've really got to follow that up. It's just the same. It's exactly the same. Anything that boys can do, girls can do, probably better. So I would really follow that up, my friend. You've got to make sure that you just talk to the right people. You can go onto the websites and find loads of stuff about it, but make sure you do it, matey, because I tell you what, girls can do anything like this, and you really have to follow that up. 100%, mate. I'd love to know what your future holds for you. If you want to do it, you just do it, mate. Top question, Sabrina. Really great stuff, matey. Coda, you've got a great question for us. How long does it take to be a good tracker? Coda's 7 years old, everyone, and boy, I'll tell you what, Operation Wildchild reporting for duty again. This is amazing, guys. You've got so many great questions. I think you are going, when you, this might sound a bit strange, you become a good tracker when you actually go to the next place in the world. And what I mean by that is you are constantly learning all your life how to track. Now, there's a lot of different forms of tracking. There's simple tracking, which I can sort of do. There's the next level of tracking is systematic tracking, which means that you're putting a puzzle together. You're taking all the signs of different things. You're putting a sort of picture together, a little bit like a detective. And then you've got what's called intuitive tracking, and that's when you're talking about people like we've got one of our special members of the team, Steph, and also Brent and Scott. All of those guys is a bit of intuition, and what intuition is, Coda, is like a feeling that you've got inside you about what the animal's done. So it takes a long time, but at the same time you can do it on a very, very simple form, and you can go out there and just start to even track mum or dad, get them to go to a place and go to a woodland, and you stay with another parent or friend, and you just try and track where they went, pick up little signs of what they've done. So Coda, beautiful question. Great name, by the way, mate. That's a really, really lovely name, Coda. And it takes a long, long time, but you should start it. You can start it at any age, and you can learn. And again, there's loads of different ways to learn, particularly websites and books. You can get yourself great books on basic tracking. And, you know, North America is absolutely famous for its tracking as well. Some of the best trackers in the world come from North America. Great question, Coda. Thanks, buddy. Okay, we've got one more question before I'm going to cross to James to see what he's up to, and I'll just stop here. We've had some great questions this morning, and I think this is a very, very important one because this links to so many different things. Alyssa, you're asking how do you get to work with people like me? Well, sometimes if you're unlucky, you can do that, like Philippe and Andrew this morning. I'm only joking. You know what? You have to have a dream, Alyssa. You have to have a dream you have to have the passion to do this. You have to follow your dream. And it might sound a little bit cheesy, like a little bit like, yeah, everyone says that. Follow your dream, follow your passion. And you feel like you come up against sort of blocks all the time. Well, you can't look at them as blocks. You can look at them as learning curves or learning points, and the pathway splits constantly. One of the things I will say to you, my friend, is that if you are nice and you are genuine and you are positive all your life, you'll start to attract those sort of people around you as well. And if they hear your story that you want to do this, they will start to, eventually you'll start to bump into people that want to think, oh, goodness me, that guy, that girl, or that guy is just passionate. They really are. I'm going to give them a little helping hand. And people start to help you along the way. And as that starts to build, you start to create this pathway for yourself. Now, I've got a young man on the back here, Philippe, and he has done exactly that. He has followed his passion and followed his dream, and you know what? He won an award. He's won many awards, particularly for his films, but he's also won a competition, the 2015, what was it called, Philippe?
The Wild to Inspire.
The Wild to Inspire competition with National Geographic, and that is 1 year, isn't it? 1 year filming a field with National Geographic, and that sort of thing is out there, Alyssa. You've got to follow those things. You've got to look up. You've got to go online. You've got to talk to people. Talk to people in the industry. Get mum or dad to help you, and of course make those contacts for you. And you know what? It's people like Philippe that is the next generation, the young blood. I'm a bit of an old dog now, but you know what? I've still got the passion, but I love to see people like Philippe come through the ranks and doing exactly what they've always dreamt of. So, Alyssa, you can do it. I did it. Philippe's done it. Andrew's done it. All of our team's done it. Anyone can do it. I'm nothing special. I'm a normal person, and just like you, but you can follow your dream if you've got the passion, and just make sure you look forward as long as you can, and always follow it up, matey. Great question, matey. We're going to pass over to James now, cross to James. I'll see you just now. We're going to tootle down here and see what else we can find. But beautiful questions, guys. Thank you so much.
Right, I'm sorry everybody, the lions have crossed to the eastern side of the reserve. They've joined up with their mates in Jeffrey and Texas. You're asking, have they split permanently? It would appear not. Jeffrey, they've headed across to the eastern side of this sort of section that we're not allowed to go into. And apparently all 5 of them are there. How happy they are with each other, only time will tell. But for the moment, the coalition appears to be fairly strong. Now remember, when the Matimba boys came in here, they were the sort of last dominant coalition. They started off as 5 and they split permanently into 2 and 3. 3 of them were dominating way up north in the Manuleti, and the 2 that we had were down here, dominating over Arathusa and a little bit south of us, and of course over Juma. And they've been chased out and left their territory vacant. I'm just looking at the ground here for tracks. This is a favourite haunt of Shadow, the leopard. With any luck we'll find her tracks. But so that's quite common for coalitions to split up like that. 5 males, the Majingalan coalition of 5 also dominate the western side of the Sabi Sands. They have actually, well, they'd also split into 3 and 2, but they are much more often seen together than many of the other coalitions. And I think that's why they've had such a successful run in the area for so long. So if there's any trouble, they'll basically call each other together and deal with any marauding interlopers that might come through the area. 2 dikers speeding through the bush. We won't try and get Wium to film them. They're making noises. Hello Michelle in Detroit, where I believe you say it's pretty icy. It is sure ain't icy here. It's just after 6 in the morning. The cicadas are already calling, and it feels a little bit like we're swimming in a volcano. Michelle, you say, is there any rhyme or reason for when and why lions call? Definitely there is, Michelle. Lions call when they are marking their territories, and that's the best way for them to mark territory. They roar, and their sound can travel for miles and miles around the place, and just lets all the others know who's in charge. And then secondly, they'll roar to call each other. So I mean, if those Majingalan males are threatened, if 2 of them are threatened by these Birminghams, they'll roar, and the others will come and join them, and then they will dispatch any kind of invaders. So yes, definitely they roar for a purpose. It's for contact and for territorial displays. Often sort of this time of the day, well, probably a bit earlier, sort of at dawn, they like to do their last roars. So we're heading towards the Arathusa Dam now, and we'll see if we can't find anything interesting in there. Brenda, you reckon those lions looked a little bit thin, and you live in Louisiana, and you think those lions want to know when they last ate. I'm not sure when they last ate, Brenda. I don't think they look too thin though. I think they look pretty good. They're certainly not full-bellied, but I think they look pretty healthy. Remember, they can quite easily go 3 or 4 days without feeding, show no ill effects at all. And when they do eat, then their bellies look very fat, but I don't think they look thin. When they're starting to lose condition, you see their hip bones start to stick out. The ribs start to show. Those chaps just haven't had a meal recently, but that certainly doesn't mean that they're in any way compromised. I think they're in pretty good nick. You see there aren't any hippo in the Arathusa Dam, where the adventure started this morning. Just about there. Lovely birds starting to call as the heat builds. And here that orange-breasted bushwalk. Bill, you're in New York. You say are the flat cats more active during the cool of the winter days than they would be in the summer? Yes, they are, Bill. They're pretty lazy in winter too, but yes, they're definitely more active in the mornings when it's a bit cooler. In winter time, I mean, it's already probably, I'd say we're pushing 80 to 85 degrees Celsius here at the moment, and they won't tolerate that for long. So we've popped down to the Arathusa Dam, and we'll just have a look. There's some impala. There are a couple of hippo. Look like swamp things because they're hidden by the water hyacinth. You can see the impala. Are there any babies? There are no babies in this herd at all. It's quite interesting. Paul Rizzo, you want to know how far it is that impala roam during the day while we look at these impala. Paul, impala don't go a huge distance. They're not good migrators. They're very effective competitors for browse and for graze, but they're not effective migrators, so they don't go very far. I'm not sure how many miles. Look at them having a bit of a frolic there. But they'll stay within 2 kilometers of water. They won't go much further than that. 2 kilometers is about 1.5 miles. There you go. Ah, sorry. I was just ducking out of the way there. I wasn't having a sleep. There you can see the hippo. I haven't worked with Wium for a while. Normally I get slapped on the head. Okay, let's quickly head across the bushwalk. They've got monkeys alarm calling apparently. Let's go across there.
We found a vervet monkey with a tiny little baby. You can see the baby's tail sticking out. It's clinging onto its mother's stomach. Sadly though, Mom has disappeared behind a big thick branch in the middle of the shot, but she is on the move again. And I'm hoping she'll pop out and reveal her tiny little baby to us at some point. But there is another one I've seen, another youngster that's running around here somewhere. You can see the antenna on the left hand side of your screen for the bushwalk backpack. Where's Mom gone? Let me see if I can't reposition the vehicle ever so slightly, because it'll be great to get some views of her. Oh no, Brian's found another youngster. I think we may have only got a portion of this troop in this acacia tree. And the animals we don't get to spend too much time with. So, always good to show them to you and spend some time with our cousins. The largest primates that we see here at Juma are the vervet monkeys. Baboons occasionally come through, but sadly not as often as we would like. Okay, I can't resist trying to move the vehicle because we do need to try and get you a shot of this tiny little baby. So I'm just going to move forward ever so slightly, and that should hopefully give Brian a better angle. There, he's found her, but she's on the move again already, not wanting to show us her baby. Oh. Well, no luck, sadly, but what can you do if you don't want to be on camera? You don't want to be on camera, and she's avoiding us at all costs. But the youngsters seem to be a little bit more willing to perform. Ryan's just found another one for you now. And I guess like most things in life, often youngsters may not be as aware of the relationship between humans and animals as the adults are, and the adults have got less tolerance of us. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that little glimpse of the vervet monkeys who are not cooperating with us. So we're going to send you back to James and see if we can find some animals that are a little bit less camera shy.
Hello everybody, we have just been past some hippos in the Arathusa Dam, but they were hiding underneath the green mass that is the water hyacinth there, so we moved on. We're now heading to the south of Arathusa, and I just want to do a little boundary patrol here, see if we can't find some evidence, perhaps of shadow or something else like that. Also, the lioness that was with those Birmingham boys yesterday, I don't know where she is. I don't think she has passed on to the east as well, so maybe we'll come across her, and that's our general plan at the moment. The first plan is going to be to get away from these power lines, which are unsightly at best. Right, we're on something called a marula crest now, and you can see that the biggest trees here are the marula trees. Iconic African trees are the marulas. Here's a very good example here. Favorite amongst the leopards. They like to hang their kills in them because they're quite comfortable. They have smooth bark. And on the ridge crest areas, they are the trees that dominate. They love deep sandy soils, and they have to have full sun. Otherwise they don't survive very well. They'll fruit around January and February in this area. Up north around Palaboa and north of that, they're actually fruiting already, and they're quite a treat for people at Christmas time. They make marula beer and all sorts of delicious things out of them. Jams, various distilled kind of moonshine. Okay, let's head across to HT and see what he's looking at the moment. We're going to do a little turn around to the south of this reserve and then head back towards June. See you just now.
Well, folks, we just pulled up to this one of the last remaining sort of water points, this little water point that we do pump water into, but it's quite, it's not, some animals do come down here for a drink, but it's this hippo that's in here, he, being in this location for so long, can start to make the water quite foul, and it can be a little bit tricky. But you can see what he's doing now. I just talk about the behaviour that's happening right now. He's got some wounds on his back, which are a little bit annoying for him. He's gotten into a scrap with another hippopotamus. I can't quite see them, and I've worked with hippo for many years. When I was a zookeeper, I looked after hippopotamus, so I really do. I've seen some wounds on the hippos that I worked with. They heal incredibly quickly. They really do have an ability to heal their wounds, but if the wounds are quite serious, they can cause the hippo major pain and drama and end up being a fatal wound. But the situation you have on the back, and the reason why he's rolling over like that, is he's got these annoying little feathered friends on there that are called red-billed oxpeckers. Now, they're a beautiful bird. I'm not sure how close Andrew can go in on there. It's a little bit tricky. We don't want to get any closer to him because we don't want to stress him, and he's already probably under a little bit of stress. They are annoying him, and they're actually in their wounds. These animals are eating a little bit of the flesh and the blood, which is sounds a little bit horrific, but it does happen in the wild all the time. Oxpeckers can annoy a wound, and they normally are picking parasites off animals, and there's a sort of relationship that many animals have, but at the moment these guys are being rather annoying to him, and he can't get underwater anymore because of the level of the water, so he's rolling over on his side to get them off the back. You can see just on the spine, the base of his spine there towards his rump or his hindquarters there, you see some open wounds, and they sadly will be just annoying, just really annoying. So he rolls over and tries to get them off. I'll try and get a picture up of these birds just for you. I'll just keep the pictures on the hippo, but Andrew, but I've got a little app here that I'll show everyone in a second with the oxpecker. So just stand by for me. Yeah, but he's a lone bull in this area, and he will be just in here during the day looking after the skin of hippopotamus are quite delicate, and they do suffer sunburn if they're exposed to the sun. He will be coating himself with mud and rolling around, so he'll be looking after himself, but hopefully those wounds will heal. Good question from Anthony in Philadelphia. And you want to know how wide a hippo can open his mouth, Anthony. You can see those wounds there, Anthony. I'm so sorry. I'll come to your question now. They're quite superficial, actually. I have to say, I've seen a lot worse, but they're still really annoying for him. It's like they probably won't get any worse than that as long as he can sort of keep them in water. It does look like another hippo, I think. Sometimes you can see equally spaced claw marks. Yeah, I don't think this is a hippo that we have here normally. I think the hippo that we have here normally has got some quite serious wounds on him. They will come up with these scraps. Anthony, I promise you I'm coming to your question, but just whilst he's in that position, I just want to quickly mention, so these could be scrape marks from a battle that he's been in. If you do see equal scrape marks or claw marks, it can be an attempt from lion to attack a pride of lion may attack a hippo, but maybe an animal this size, probably not. But anyway, it's probably from a battle that he's had, and they will heal eventually. But Anthony, your question was, and welcome aboard, Anthony, that's the most important thing, first and foremost. Great to have you with us on Safari Live. And your question is, how wide can a hippo open his mouth? Well, from memory in my old brain, Anthony, I think it is around 130 degrees. 130 comes to mind. I may be wrong on that. I might have to get Final Control to double check on that for me. It's definitely past 90 degrees, so it's around 100 degrees, I think, Anthony, but I'll double check that for you, matey. One of those numbers that I've just, in the misspent childhood that I've had, I've forgotten it, and it's slipped through the net, but it's around 100 degrees, I think, and I will double check on that for you, mate. Thanks for being with us, Anthony, and great to have you on board. Michael, that's a great question. You've heard that hippos can't actually swim. Well, that's true. They can't swim. They're actually running along the bottom. And your second half of your question is, why do they spend so much time in the water? Well, hippos have found this little niche, and the niche is that they are an amphibious or semi-amphibious hoofed animal. There's no other animal that does it. They've found a lovely little niche that they can exploit, I suppose is the word, and that is to be the only hoofed animal that spends sort of the aquatic time in that little environment, which is quite protective, and they live in herds or pods, they're sometimes referred to, and it's a safety area that no other animals in there. They have a relationship with crocodile. They sort of keep their distance, but I've seen in Uganda, which is one of the greatest concentrations of hippos in Africa, in an area called the Kazinga Channel between Lake Albert and Lake George in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and the concentration of hippo there, Michael, is absolutely staggering. And they will lie side by side with crocodile. Crocodile will always take an opportunity if there is a youngster, but I tell you what, they would have to be a pretty seriously courageous crocodile, because these animals will protect their young fiercely. But they just carve out this little niche that they're an aquatic ungulate, which is a hoofed animal, as I said before. Water is their safety zone. They've adapted to that aquatic life. They don't eat in the water. They come out at night to graze, and they've adapted their behavior as well there by eating in the cooler hours of the day, so from dusk till dawn, and then they come back to the safety of the water to protect their skin. Sometimes, you know, you'll see on a very, very cool or overcast day when the temperature's down and the sun's not too intense, they'll come out of the water and haul out onto the edge, and sometimes have a little bit of a lay in the cooler parts of the day, or they might even go out and walk around during the day. I've seen that before as well. The majority of the time is spent in the water, and they will use that water as their safe haven with the rest of the herd. Thanks for being on board, Michael. Barbara, I've got a lovely question from you, and thanks for being on board with us today as well. Barbara, your question is, could some of those wounds be sunburn as well? Barbara, I don't think so. You normally see the sunburn on hippos is normally like flaking skin, a little bit of reddish tinge to it, obviously, as we get, but these are definitely wounds from a battle. It could be two different things. It could be an attack from a predator coupled with a fight as well. So historically, I'm not sure about this animal, but it's definitely wounds that have been, or trauma that's been caused to the hippo's back from another animal. I would guess another hippopotamus. Now, I just want to excuse me, try and remember who asked the question. FC, you might be able to. Anthony, was that the question about the how far can a hippo open its jaws? Anthony, the wonderful colleagues of mine in FC and Final Control have looked that up for you and double-checked. Now, I wasn't far off, Anthony. It's 150 degrees, which is even more impressive, about 4 feet wide. That hippo can open its mouth. And, Anthony, that's a great bit of information that I have had to jog my memory. I thought it was 130, but even better, 150 degrees. How incredible is that? And they do a fantastic display with their mouth when they open it, and it's to show other opponents their armory, their massive canines and incisors that they have. Their canines are referred to sometimes as tusks, and those tusks they will use to fight with, but also those incisors, which are incredible puncture wound fighting teeth. I used to look after a hippo, Anthony, called Billy, and I trained him up to open his mouth on command, and he would get a positive reinforcement for that, a bit of food. It would allow me to check his dentition, or check his dental hygiene and make sure he was okay. He was 45 years old, this hippo, so I wanted to make sure he carried on. He was very healthy, and I used to train him, and I could get him to put his teeth, these big canines, up onto the fence of the exhibit, and I could scratch his tongue, and he absolutely loved it. His partner, Lindy, wasn't as friendly as he was, but Billy was a very, very fantastic hippo. But they're incredible creatures, hippopotamus, and he will probably stay in this pool or this pond most of the day, and probably move off later on. Now, I just want to quickly show you this bird. Just bear with me a second. On my app. So all I'm doing now is just, whilst you've got pictures on there. Okay, I don't know how good this is going to be, guys, because of the light, but maybe if I put that there, Andrew, how's that? You can swing around. So folks, I'm just going to try and adjust the reflection, and Andrew can come in nice and close on that. So we've got what we've got is a picture of this, bit like that. Does that look? Okay, there we go. So I think we're in position, folks. So this is an app that I use to just save carrying so many books around. I love books, so I'm absolutely passionate about books, but this app is a fantastic app that allows us to show you the bird, and also, let me just get the volume up. It allows me to play you the call as well, which is very, very important. So that little call that's big, that little call there, you can actually hear twittering around behind us, and it's a little contact call that they have with each other, and sometimes they'll have another alarm call which will also alert predators, but that really sort of distinct yellow ring around the eye, dark rump, that's the flight pattern. And we did see over there, actually, Andrew might be able to go back over to them now and have a look, and you might see a couple of juveniles on there without the coloration, which is quite unusual. You don't see them very often. I think one with a back to us is potentially a juvenile. They've got a darker beak, they don't have the coloration, or they've got the yellow ring around the eye or the red bill yet. They're a great little bird, very, very busy. They've got that sort of sound to them. I think there's a couple. There might be a juvenile there somewhere, can't quite see from here. But they're a really common resident, and they sort of live in, they're nomadic sort of through woodland savanna and open savanna. They're a great, great bird. Okay. Well, we're going to move on, and we'll see what we can find. I've got a beautiful question from Rain, and I'll just start that question. Rain is 15, and thank you for coming, Rain. It's so great to have so many young people watching. It really does make our hearts sing here on Safari Wild. Rain, your question is, what can kids do to help in conservation? Wow. Whew, Rain, I'm probably going to have to come across, I think you might be in the United States, Rain, and I think we've actually had a question from you before as well. I'd love to sit down with you, Rain, for a couple of hours and talk about that, but just in a nutshell, in a really, really quick, or not quick answer, but an answer that I don't bang on and carry on for too long. You can do so much, Rain. I like to also talk about local, global, local. We live in a time now, we've got amazing opportunity to look at other parts of the world. Right now with us live on SafariLIVE, you are watching another part of the world, you're learning about another part of the world. But it's incredibly important to learn about your own backyard, and when I say backyard, I mean your habitats and your local area and what conservation areas that you can help with there. That's super important, and what that is what we call a tangible help or a tangible project for you, because sometimes if you think, oh, I want to help rhinoceros, I want to help chimpanzees, I want to help snow leopards or something like that, which are all very, very important things as well, you might not feel immediately that you're making an impact. I still say carry on and help with those things. It's really, really important as well. But also your own backyard, your own local habitat. Look about, see if there's wildlife groups or charities in your area that you can help with, that you could go out and assist with. You might be able to go out with mum and dad on a weekend and maybe do some conservation management work, or helping with a habitat, helping reclaim some habitat back, cleaning up some habitat, getting rubbish out of it, replanting trees or something like that. Have a look around your local area, and that way you're starting somewhere and you're making a huge impact that you can actually see happening. And then also think globally, think locally, think globally, think locally. So, Rain, fantastic question. I hope that helps you, buddy. And we've got an absolute plethora, an absolute smorgasbord, a buffet of things we can do these days with the internet. So that's probably my best answer for you, Rain. Great to have you on board, buddy. Thank you, Mr. Hippo. Fantastic to have you, and I hope you get better. And we'll just go past you gently, my boy. I hope those oxpeckers don't annoy you too much today. Really great. Take care, my boy. I love hippo. So I might actually just do a little turn around. That's probably the best thing, Andrew. We'll just go down and around across the dam wall and up to another water point behind the lodge. Just while we're going across, Andrew's going to pan the camera around. We've got a lovely herd of bachelor herd of impala across there, and I'll go quite slowly past our hippo friend again. I've got impala across there. I'll just stop for a second for you so you can get a nice shot. It's not too bumpy. Impala, there's a Nyala bull as well, which is the darker animal Andrew's got in the middle of the screen at the moment. They're just having a little graze. There's not a lot of feed around in that area, or it used to be. That was full of water when I was here last. Got a question from Mark in Chicago. Mark, great to have you with us, buddy. Mark, your question is, how long will it take these water holes, these dams, to fill up again? Well, it's a bit of one of those open-ended questions. If we got about a week's solid rain, which can happen in the wet season, which is the summer, you know, we'd definitely get a nice water level in here. But Mark, it really does depend. We need a good solid couple of weeks rain to put some substantial water in there, and then we need to have water there after, because then the bottoms of the dams and the water points will start to the soil gets to what's something called its water holding capacity, which means that it's sort of waterlogged in a way, and then the water doesn't seep just down into the ground. Once the water holding capacity is sort of up there again, you'll start to get a water level that'll start to rise. So I'm really looking forward to the rain for all these animals, for the vegetation, and just to get things back on track. It is a slight... Oh, sorry. Hold on, guys. When I say worrying, it's just... I can see so many animals really needing it, and the ground, the land needs it. We need the rain. We really do. We really need the rain. Thank you for asking your question, mate. Great to have you on board. I'm going to carry on up here and see up another water point.
Welcome back to the bushwalk. We have decided to just set off on foot. We're not on the trail or a fresh trail of any given animal, but because the clock is ticking, we thought we'd rather just start by getting off on foot in an area where we are hoping we're going to get lucky. This is the general area where Karula, a female leopard, was moving yesterday, or at least her tracks were. And by us being on foot, it just increases our chances of finding her, because we get moving through areas where the vehicles cannot search, and we also available to listen to any updates that Mother Nature may give us, like impala alarm calling, or monkeys alarm calling, squirrels alarming. Any kind of alarm calls in this general area would be much more likely to hear whilst on foot as opposed to in the vehicle. We've got Jeffrey and Bright, they're just up ahead crisscrossing through this area, and we keep in touch by doing short whistles. And they'll just give me a reply shortly. You may not be able to hear, and that way we don't go too far from one another, and also don't let the animals move off or get scared. Immediately now, Jeffrey and Bart are responding to that whistle, thinking that I've maybe found something interesting. And that's another thing that we'll do when we are tracking, is that we'll split up, and whoever does find the most recent track will whistle. Then you come back, reunite at that point of the last track, and then start searching for the next track. To follow each individual footprint would be impossible, because the ground's simply too hard. Sorry guys, false alarm. Nothing to see. But it's a good example of how we've been working over the last few days, and they've just appeared perfectly. And Okay, well, Zubair in Chicago has just asked, how long does it take to become an expert in tracking? And that's a good question. Jeffrey, how long have you been tracking for now?
1.5 years.
So 1.5 years, and you did a training course not too far from here in the Sabi Sands?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I guess like guiding, Zubair, it doesn't take incredibly long to become a tracker or a guide. It's usually a 6-month course. Your course was a one-year course.
Yes.
So that's a very in-depth tracking course. I did a 6-month field guide training course. But that's just to get you into the system, you could say, and obviously as time goes by you start acquiring a lot more skills and knowledge. But what I can assure you is that even though Jeffrey's just done a 1-year training course, he's got an incredible eye for tracking and an incredible passion, and that's what's made him such a good tracker, at least what we've seen of his skills and his potential so far. Bright, you've been tracking for a little bit longer than that now?
Yes.
How many years?
2 years.
2 years. And again, just an example of how not hugely experienced, but because they've done such good training courses at a lodge nearby, they are really ahead of their game, and we've all been incredibly impressed with their ability and their skill in tracking. But like I'm sure you guys will admit that all the guys, the trackers that you guys have learned from and who have taught you are more experienced, and in time you will gain that same experience, and that will be very useful.
Yes, and it took something like, when they told us 30 years to become a master trainer.
30 years?
30 years.
Okay, well there we go. That's what their mentors and trainers told them. It's taken them about 30 years to achieve master tracker qualification, which is the highest acknowledged qualification you can get as a tracker in South Africa. And I think, how many master trackers are there in South Africa now? Maybe less than... 2 or 3?
2 or 3,
yeah, so not many, and that gives you an idea of how tricky it is to become a master tracker, but I'm sure these two are well on their way to achieving that in the future. Let's carry on and prove to everyone that we are on the way to becoming master trackers. It's been so much fun working with them. Yesterday they followed tracks of Karula, and well, in all likelihood Karula, and they managed to follow her trail all the way to where she made a baby impala kill, and all that was left of that baby impala was one leg with a little hoof and the tail and a bit of fur. So that was an awesome thing to see, and not only understand where Karula's moving, but just be able to sit there and understand that she would have fed on this baby impala for a couple of hours in a certain area before moving off. The tricky thing is where she moved off to, we couldn't find. But we could get lucky this morning. Another thing I'd like to show you, well, we can just take a second here, is where, well, two things actually. I took a shortcut while we were looking around the Buffelshoek waterhole. Show you is the sand. If I push as hard as I can, you can see there's hardly any depression. If I stamp my foot down, it hardly leaves a track. I mean, you can see that a footprint is here, but that's after really slamming my foot down. So if an animal's just walking along here gently, it's very difficult to see any tracks. So that's what we're up against at the moment, and that's typical of this time of the year, the summer months, when the ground is a lot harder. In winter, once there's been a lot less moisture, and once all the ground has been churned up by many hooves, it becomes very powdery and a fine dust, and it becomes a lot easier to see the track. So that's my excuse on behalf of the tracking team this morning. I really love watching how they move through the bush. They're like silent warriors. It might actually be worth stopping here for a second and just watching how meticulously they go about looking for tracks. There's Mr. Bright, very focused on the task at hand, and they camouflage very well into the bush. They fit in here so well. Poor old Bright yesterday said he had a very close run-in with some white rhino whilst on the trail of Karula. He was so focused on the tracks, and this was at about 3:30, very hot in the afternoon, and he stumbled upon a few white rhino who came huffing and puffing past him. But I hope you guys are enjoying this kind of different little adventure that we decided to take you on this morning, because we haven't really found the time to do it yet. Sadly, we're not on the trail of an animal. It would be really exciting if we are, but maybe in the coming drives we'll be able to get you on a trail of a lion or a leopard, and we'll get to see Bright and Jeffrey hard at work. One of the wonderful things about the safari industry is that it is keeping this art and science of tracking alive, because the need for kind of herd boys to, oh, sorry, I walked Brian into a bad spot there, so I need to untangle his antenna. There we go. Back in action. Sorry, Brian. As I was saying though, the need for trackers is becoming less and less. Naturally, many years ago, when a lot of African people were tending to livestock and cattle, they would need to track down animals that they've lost from their herds, and that's why in this area there are so many people who have, or the older guys who have the ability to track. But younger generations, where they're doing less and less tracking because there's less needs to look after your own livestock, makes it a kind of dying trade. But the safari industry is keeping a requirement for trackers, and that's why the older professionals, the mentors of Bright and Jeffrey, have been able to pass on these incredible skills, and that's why this legendary job is continuing. Bright and Jeffrey have spotted something that they'd like to show you up ahead here quickly. So we're just going to have a quick look at what they found, and then we'll probably send you across to James. Oh, this is going to be cool. I think I know what Jeffrey's on here. So, Mr. Jeffrey, what has happened to this tree?
This is a rubbing post of an elephant.
Okay.
An elephant was trying to get rid of ticks here.
Okay.
This is also a sign when you are doing following. You can also use this one to follow the trail of an elephant.
And it was rubbing its shoulder up there, high up on the tree.
Yeah.
And if Brian just reverses it a little bit, you'll get an idea of how tall this elephant is. The mud starts here and then finishes much further up, further than I can reach. And like Jeffrey says, it's not only about following the footprints, but it's also about following the signs of what these animals have done when you are trailing them. Yep.
And the other thing that is interesting is that even if you don't find the track here, from very far you can see that this is an elephant because it's very high. If it is a warthog, it's supposed to be somewhere here, the rabbit.
Exactly, and then it'll be buffalo.
If a rhino and buffalo is somewhere here. So even if there is no track here, you can see from very far that this one, like this, is an elephant because it's very high.
Exactly. Well, good stuff. Thanks, Bright. Thanks for sharing that little nugget of wilderness information with us. We're going to race you across to James, though. He's found you a little nest, and we're going to continue searching for anything interesting for you.
There we go, everybody. A fascinating piece of dead wood sitting here in Arathusa. The only heartbeat, I'm afraid, is inside the hole that you're looking at there. It's a hornbill's nest. We watched a hornbill fly across the road carrying something in his or her beak, probably his beak, and past a worm or some such into that hole where I'm sure there is a little nest. Now, there are lots and lots of hole nesting birds around here. There are hornbills, there are kingfishers, there are oxpeckers, there are, what else nests in holes? Lots of different things. And they're all, it's kind of premium space. Barbets and woodpeckers and lilac-breasted rollers. Spaces at a premium at this time of the year in these hollow trees. And that's where the hornbills have managed to have their nest. Now, we had a question a little bit earlier about parental care, and often people ask about sort of family values out here, especially with regard to lions and the mammals, and it's because we like to try and identify with the animals and creatures that we see out here. More often than not, the mammal fathers show a disturbing propensity to be fairly useless when it comes to helping raising the kids. But the birds are a very different example. They're amazing. They're often a pair that will raise, often very monogamous pair, that will raise the chicks together. And very seldom is that the case that, you know, the father bird will just disappear. And there's, of course, the very interesting case of the jacana, the African jacana, where the female's actually not very good with the babies. She lays her eggs, she lays lots of different clutches of eggs, and the males then raise the babies. They sit on the eggs, incubate them, and then raise the babies on their own. So that's the story with the birds at the moment. We're driving north in Arathusa. We checked the southern boundary, found absolutely nothing there. We're now heading north, not finding a great deal more, so I think we're going to head across to Juma again once we reach the northern boundary of Arathusa, and we'll see what we can find there. The heat is continuing to build at a rather alarming rate, so that come 12 o'clock this afternoon, I think it's going to be fairly frightening. I think we're going to be spending a lot of time fighting over cold showers in camp, and maybe finding a swimming pool or two to lie in, like the buffalo around Gallagher Camp. Let's head back to the bushwalk and see what they're up to, and we'll keep you posted.
Well, have no doubt that you enjoyed your little update on the bird's nest with James. It's quite a windy morning, so when walking it's important to keep the wind into consideration. It's kind of swirling at the moment, you'll see, but it is blowing in a generally kind of easterly direction and southerly direction, so kind of in our favor. But I've said before, and I must reiterate, that sometimes an animal smelling you or detecting you before you get to it isn't necessarily a bad thing, because then it's expecting you. And just like us as humans, we often prefer to expect visitors than for them to just arrive unannounced. So by them smelling us before they see us, before we get too close, they're kind of prepared for our arrival. And when an animal's prepared for an arrival, it's less likely to become startled and get a big fright. And that's, of course, not what we want. So, not necessarily a bad thing that animals may smell us before we get to them. Big bone here. Not too sure what it is exactly. Probably a buffalo bone. I can see a ball joint here. Possibly that would fit into a hip. So this could be a femur of something. And I'm guessing maybe a buffalo, but can't be certain. Mother Nature hasn't quite finished cleaning up all the little bits and pieces of this bone. This will all be utilized, all these little tiny bits of sinew and ligaments that are left behind for now. It's an indication that this probably isn't hugely old. Good. I wonder, the thing that's always interesting, that there's one big bone over here, and then we look around and there's no bones anywhere in sight. And I guess that's thanks to the hyenas, who come in and rip carcasses apart and then carry parts of that carcass away. But just one bone here. I can't see any else in this general area. Often you would expect to arrive at a buffalo kill or any kind of carcass and see the head and the legs and all the ribs. Oh, here we found another little fragment. Looks like another large bone. Not too sure what it is, but interesting how it is all so spread out. And speaking of hyenas, the critters who in all likelihood spread this carcass apart, there's some good news. The den site is active and you're about to go across there.
Well, welcome to the cute segment. This is just magic, isn't it? We can't get enough of these guys, and this little cub, he is just delightful. She's such a fantastic mum. She's so cool with us. She's absolutely relaxed. We're probably about, I'd say about 20 feet or maybe 25 feet away from them. We've parked in the shade because the temperature is rising rapidly. But we just came around the corner, and it's always a little bit of touch and go when you turn up to the hyena den. They could be down inside the den or outlying in her favourite spot. But these guys have just brought us so much joy. I was talking to Andrew and Philippe, and Andrew said, you know, one of the reasons he does this job is to bring joy to people. And I think this is one of the location that brings a lot of joy to people on SafariLIVE. This morning I really want to talk about one of our missions, and I think a lot of scientists' missions and conservationists and people that work with animals, is to reinvigorate the sort of healthy love of these animals and what they're all about. And it's a historical thing. You know, back in Victorian times when the naturalists sort of came aboard and started writing books and going back to their places of origin and wrote these stories about these weird, strange animals with these very, very interesting appendages hanging from them that looked like both female and male. They went back and they sort of came up with this sort of inaccurate conclusion that these were hermaphrodites. There was no female, or sorry, the first thing I think they thought was, going back and remembering the story, was that they thought that they were just males. There was no females around, and then they came up with this story that they were hermaphrodites, and the individuals could both sire and conceive offspring. So that was the sort of second thing that came up. And then, you know, the lion represented this sort of massive male-dominated society in the Victorian times, and the male represented this incredible sort of male dominance. And the spotted hyena took a real back seat. Excuse me, please. I'm sorry about that. The hyena took a sort of villain-like sort of representation, I suppose, and it wasn't a very family-orientated model. You know, the lion was this wonderful family with the male was there and protected the females and everything, and these poor hyena picked up this incredibly bad reputation for being a villain skulking around with this being hermaphrodite, and anyway, the story went on, and that has stuck for a very, very long time. Now, luckily, in this day and age, we've got so much more research and so many more people, you know, flying the flag for hyena, including all of us here on SafariLIVE. These incredibly social, interesting creatures right in front of our very eyes, with this beautiful little cub suckling from his mum. The tables have turned now, and we can fly the flag for hyena, all the hyena, striped hyena, brown hyena, and particularly the spotted hyena. So the misconceptions are definitely eroding or evaporating, and now we've got this incredible, interesting animal in front of us. And our little friend, our wonderful little friend that has given us so much joy over Big Cat Week. And I just wanted to share sort of some of the background with you about the history and why these guys were historically tainted as these villains. And that whole sort of the sexual side of things behind their what people thought, coupled with their scavenging behaviour, gave them a really bad rep. But look at that, will you? Here's a very complex social structure. A super cool little baby who is just an absolute delight to watch. So, Anthony, we've got a question. Look at that. How beautiful is that? Oh, man. Look at that. You are one beautiful mum. And the baby is just loving it. It's got a complete full belly. Anthony, I'm coming to your question, I promise you, mate. Just wanted to watch these beautiful images for a second. It's just the maternal care, isn't it? So cool. That is just magical, isn't it, folks? To see that relationship, that bond, that beautiful bond between mother and cub. She's let him feed there. He's got a massive fat belly from all her milk, and now she's like licking him clean and looking after him. He'll probably roll down that hill into the hole in a second. You watch. It's happened before. Oops, there we go. He's starting to get his strength. I saw him roll down into the hole the other day. So cool. Anthony, your question. Anthony in Philadelphia, thank you for your patience, mate, and great to have you with us. Your question is how strong is a hyena's bite? Well, in a pounds per square inch level, it's about 1,100. I've seen records, I've seen statistics written of 1,050 to 1,100 pounds per square inch, or PSI. And I've seen that also compared to the same bite as a grizzly bear, and also the same bite as a PSI as a great white shark. So, you know, you're going to get variations on those, and but I think one of the things to take into consideration is that the size, proportionately to a grizzly bear or a great white with these animals. And that comes back down, Andrew. I'm sorry, was it Anthony? I do apologise. I've just gone completely blank. Control, I think I've got that person's name wrong. It is Anthony. Anthony, I do apologise. Let's just watch this little guy. This is the closest. We've got this thing amongst the team on SafariLIVE to see if this little baby's coming down the hill. This little cub, we're wanting to get to the bottom of the hill before Big Cat Week, and it's a little thing that we're striving to do. Come on, little guy. You can do it. Hey, buddy. He's really starting to get his... We're all talking about whether he's going to make it to the bottom of the hill before the end of Big Cat Week. Oh, a little bit scary. Hey, little buddy. How beautiful is he? Or she? I'm not really sure if it's a he or a she. No, that was far enough. I'm going to head back up with Mum. Hang out with Mum. But he's starting to explore his surroundings in his small, knowable world that he's got here, the safety of his mum's eyes. But so, yeah, the bite strength, I think, is something really interesting just to touch on a little bit more, and it comes back down to that, the muscularity, or those massive muscles. If you have a look, I'm not sure how close Andrew can get to the mother's head there in our picture, but... Okay, guys, I'll tell you what, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to quickly crash across to James. He's got some fantastic action going for you there with a great animal as well. These guys aren't going anywhere. We'll see you just now.
Some elephants, everybody. Just crossing into Simbambili. So we'll just have a quick look at them. She's not very happy. You can see that from the way she's lifting her head, shielding us from her youngster. Possibly both of her youngsters, just a little herd. Oh, here comes another one, across from the right-hand side. Just that one adult cow, and she's not old. She's probably only about 25 or so. There's another one coming now. They will unquestionably be heading towards some form of water today. So keep your eyes on that Arathusa Dam camera. I think you'll find that there will be elephants coming down during the course of a hot day like today. Unfortunately, we can't go in where they are going, so that might be the last we see of them, I'm afraid. Let's just sneak forward and see if there aren't one or two more. Amazing stuff you're having with the hyena there. So if there aren't any more elephants, we'll send you straight back to the hyenas. Shade will be a premium today, of course. Feeding them. I'm not sure why she was quite so upset with us when she saw us. Maybe she'd had a stressful evening of looking after the kids all on her own. And you'll notice that often their tusks are a different length. They're not always sort of equi-beautiful, if you like, and they tend to be left or right tusked, like we're left or right-handed. And means that they'll use one more than the other, and one will become just slightly different, shorter than the other. Also, of course, you do meet people that have odd-shaped teeth. That's the same with elephants. They won't always have exactly the same size tusks on each side. All right, I think we're wasting valuable hyena time with these chaps in thicker bush. We'll try and find some stuff in some more open areas, some other elephants. Let's hand you back to Hayden and the hyenas, and we'll keep on our merry way. See you just now.
Well, we had our courageous little superstar here, venturing into the big world, leaving his mum's side, coming down the hill towards us. He's taking the world on, and he's also playing with his mum now, chewing her ears. She's tolerating all this fun play. This is really important, this play, what this little cub's doing. Strengthening bones and strengthening muscles as he develops, or she develops. And mum's also doing this massive bathing exercise, cleaning the baby, the little cub, really nicely. And if there could be another youngster, I think it's her other offspring, down in the den. It's about a 6-month-old individual. Lovely light on the mother there. She sat up and looked at us. It's a gorgeous shot. She's got her eye on something there. I'm just going to take a few photos, folks, if that's okay. It's just such a beautiful light on her. And that beautiful cub, sorry. That little guy is getting an absolute smothering, being lavished with care and attention, and she's an incredible mother. Look how rough she is, and he's loving it too. He's really up for play at the moment. She's stood up. The wind is swirling around, I have to say. She's got a little bit of an alert look about her. She's not too concerned, I don't think, or she wouldn't be grooming this cub like she is, but she's still looking around at a few things, and she might have picked something up on the wind. We might drive around the other side and see if we can get another view. Oh, here he's back. He's come back, sorry. And she's come back. Stunning. They're just an incredible looking animal. She's definitely picked something up on the nose. You can see her nose working there. She's looking around. She may disappear down into the den with him. It might be just getting too hot, but no, she's going to lie back down there. This is her favourite spot. It's a very, very great privilege to sit. Yeah, she's watching something at the back there. It's a great privilege to sit with these animals and have the time with them. You really do feel blessed with Mother Nature here. We've got a question from Shell, and your question, Shell, firstly, welcome on board. Excuse me, I think I just swallowed a mapani fly. Oh, fantastic, I can feel it wriggling around in my throat. Sorry, Shell. It was a fly. I can feel it going down. Excellent. Haven't had our full breakfast yet anyway. Shell, your question, welcome aboard to Safari Live. And your question is this the same hyena that people refer to as the laughing hyena? It is. The correct name for it is a spotted hyena. But laughing hyena comes from the vocalization that they do make when there's a great excitement, particularly around a kill or a successful acquisition of another animal's kill. Frantic behavior. There's a lot of squabbling, a lot of interaction that goes on in hyenas. They're nowhere near as sort of civilized, I suppose, when it comes to the eating situation like African wild dog are. There's a lot of squabbles and carry on and get as much as you can as quickly as you can. But yes, it's the same animal that they refer to as a laughing hyena, but it comes down to their sort of cackling and laughing sort of vocalization that they make when they're very excited in a social setting or around a kill or around food. But thanks for your question, Shell. Great to have you on board with us and great to be sitting here with these beautiful creatures. We've got a question from Audrey, who's 5. Great to have you with us, Audrey. You said you think it'd be a great name to call this little hyena Ed. Well, Audrey's, there's a funny old thing in the bush here, and we don't name our animals. It's a great name, great idea, that's for sure. We just refer to him as the hyena cub at the moment, but he will maybe get a name somewhere down the line by some of the guides that work here regularly, maybe some of the guides that not of the SafariLIVE team, but we might, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But thank you so much, Audrey. It's a really great little contribution you've made there. And the funny thing is, Audrey, as he gets older, we might lose track of who he is, and they're really tricky to identify. You can use the spot pattern on them, Audrey. So sometimes you can tell who's who by the spot pattern. But often the hyenas will move across to another area, just depending on what happens in there. And, Audrey, there's a great word that you can take away from this today. We've got, I'm not sure where you are at school at the moment, but there's names for animals, grouping names that we call animals, like you say a herd of cows or maybe a flock of chickens. There's a great name for hyena, and it's called a clan. C-L-A-N, Audrey. So hopefully that's a new word you've learnt today. It's called a clan of hyena. Thanks so much for your question, Audrey, and great to have you with us, buddy, and watching. 5 years old. I'm so happy for you, bud, and great to have you. Got a lovely question, great question, very interesting one from Raina in Florida. Welcome aboard to you as well. Raina, you want to know how many cubs or how many's in the litter of hyena. It's normally 2, sometimes 3. See what she's doing, see what that cub's doing to the mum now. That neck bite. I just want to show you, Raina, what's happening right now. It's got the back of the mum's neck there. And doing this twisting head motion. That's a behaviour, that's an instinctive behaviour that's with hyena from birth. And Raina, one of the things, it's a very stressful situation in the hyena den when the cubs are born. So sometimes there's only 1, majority of the time it's about 2, and occasionally there's 3. And what happens is the most dominant hyena cub will start to put that pressure on the other hyena cubs very, very quickly, to the point where it can sometimes kill it. Sometimes there can be 2 cubs. It's normally only 1 survive, and they will be only hours after birth, like 2 hours maybe. 24 hours after birth, they will be really putting pressure and fighting down in that den. Sometimes if they've moved into another chamber of the den at a young age, the mother can't actually get down there to sort it out, and one cub can kill another one. It does happen frequently. It's very intense down there. They've got sharp little teeth, and they'll tear into each other, and the most dominant animal will survive. So it sounds pretty gruesome and sounds a little bit intense, but it's the way of the most secure way of the dominant animal, the strongest animal surviving, and it's one of the traits of hyenas in dens. But great question. So normally 2, sometimes 1, occasionally 3. Thank you very much, Raina, for your question in Florida. I'm just going to have a sip of water, folks, so I can wash my mapani fly down my throat. Ah, that's better. Okay, we're going to cross over to bushwalk and see what they've got. The small stuff, the small things really matter too, and that's one of the most wonderful things about bushwalk. A very connective experience when you're on foot in the bush. We'll be back with you just now.
So we found some interesting bugs on the go here. They're in a flower. We're going to show you them very shortly. But what's interesting is we found a very similar bug a couple of days ago on a bushwalk. It looked similar but slightly different, and I'll talk you through that. But it was doing the exact same thing, and that was folding up leaf petals to kind of create a tent or a canopy. Take a closer look. This is a morning glory flower, and you can see what I mean. The bugs are currently folding the petals in on themselves, creating this perfect little home, a purple shelter. And I just want to very temporarily open up just to show you the bug, because if any of you can help us identify this, it would be greatly useful. I'm going to let it go now. I think that's long enough for you to take some screenshots. The one that we saw in the bushwalk yesterday wasn't this green color with the beautiful yellow. It was black with little white spots, but exactly the same kind of shaped bug and doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to try and get it back to the state that it was in. I don't want to undo its hard work. There we go. And we just thought we'd show you what's going on at ground level here. This, interestingly enough, is just the first wild morning glory from this batch. There's a few little buds popping up where more flowers will shoot out from. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more flowers on the way on this little shoot. And underneath the ground there's a large bulb like a potato that is fueling this flower's growth. So it doesn't have a regular root system. It's got a very big bulb underneath the ground. And I'm looking forward to finding out what these guys are. They're probably laying their eggs in here, and that's why they're trying to close off the shelter. A few days back we saw these same or similar bugs actually mating whilst on the leaf. These ones haven't been mating yet, but maybe they have already done their mating for the morning. And what's interesting is that they definitely don't appear to be feeding on this flower. It looks kind of cut up, and that's from their feet pulling the flower closed. So as far as we're aware, they're not feeding on it and simply using it as a kind of home or a nest site. Interesting stuff, and I'm sure you guys are excited to be possibly heading back to the hyena den, where you've been having some wonderful visuals of those cubs, or of that main little cub, and we're going to send you back there right now.
Well, she just stood up. You can hear this beautiful sound. She's just making a couple of sounds to her cub. She just stood up. She's just looking around. She's a little bit wary. I don't know what she's picked up on the wind, but Mother knows best. And the little one is oblivious to any danger, of course. But she'll give him the nod if he has to go down into the den very, very quickly. He'll scoot down there into safety. But she's just gotten up onto higher ground to have a little bit of a look around. Now, it could be something as simple as another individual coming back to the clan, another member of the clan coming back. It could be they could be out somewhere on a carcass. and it's really lovely to see that interaction. But you can see there's a little sense of uncomfortability with him picking up from his mum's body language, or his mum's you can pick up on that. He's feeling a little bit uncomfortable. She's giving him signals to just be careful. He's really learning he's picking up off signals off his mum, what he should do. She just gave him some form of body language or signal to get back towards the front of the den there. And then he responded, which is great, which is what survival's all about. Right? He's just... I keep saying he. I do apologise. It could be a she. It's just... I don't really want to say it. So I'm just referring to this little cub as a he at the moment. Very, very difficult to tell at this age. It's difficult to tell at the best of times. Jerry in Perth, Australia. Fantastic to have you on board, buddy. Great, great, great. Oh, that's so good to hear that you're up and still watching Safari Live. Jerry, your question is a great one, and it's often asked by people, maybe not necessarily on air, but I do hear people wondering about how the mother survives. Well, she will put the cub down into the den and go off and either hunt or scavenge herself. Other animals don't bring her food back. She has to go off and do that. So she'll do that. She's in perfect condition, as you can see. Very, very healthy. And she will go off and hunt. So it'll be at night. She'll put him down into the den, and he will stay down there until his mother comes back and vocalizes at the front of the den. Sorry, he just fell down the hole then. He'll probably pop his head up in a second. But Jerry, your question basically is she'll go out hunt for herself and then come back to him, and he won't come out of that den until she gives the okay for him. But great to have you on board, Jerry, in Perth, Australia. Really wonderful to know that I'm talking to people in Florida. I'm talking to people in the West Coast and East Coast of the United States. We're talking to people in Europe. We're talking to people in South America, Asia, Australia, right around the globe right now, live. You're seeing these pictures live from Africa on Safari Live. Listen to that. You may be able to hear that. Lovely sound, like a It's very windy, but she may go to the front of the den. She lets out this lovely sound, like a bit like this. They pick up sound. If you're sitting at home now and you're listening to Safari Live, I want you to maybe just stand up from your chair, maybe take a couple of steps back wherever you are if you can. Just watch what you're doing, of course, and then just use your ears as they normally are to listen to the commentary and the narration, what we're doing here. And then I want you to cup your hands and put them beside your ears like a hyena's ears, and see if it improves the sound quality for you. I'm gathering it should, and cupping those hands around your ears makes it like a hyena ear. And it's like a dish. It's like a sound dish that captures the sound and channels it down into the ear canal, and lets the brain process that particular sound. So they are like radar dishes. They are fantastic. You can sit back down now, everyone. They're like radar dishes, pick up sound. They've got a sensational sense of hearing, sense of smell, and sense of sight. Okay, we're going to cross to James. James has got something very special for you. I saw one of these yesterday, but I tell you what, you don't get a chance to see them often on drive, so this is fantastic. We'll see you just now.
Look at that, everybody, a tree monitor. Tree or rock monitor, just so special to see them. They're all around, but we so seldom get them in that kind of light, sitting very happily watching us, almost with the same interest that we're watching him. Isn't he great? The largest lizard that we get here, outside of the crocodile, of course. Look at him. Now, he's very cleverly trying to hide the other side of the... Oh, look at him peeking around the side there. He's giving Wium the eyeball. That is fantastic. We don't often see them like that. Look at the claws. Brilliant for climbing. And this, of course, is the favorite food of the martial eagle. And we saw one the other day being devoured actually by a male leopard. He found it very surreptitiously. He walked in amongst some logs, and one bite and the lizard was dead. But these are phenomenal. They're voracious lizards, these. They're predators. They'll eat pretty much anything that they can overpower. But if you try and catch one, they're incredibly strong. Isn't that lovely? I'm just going to... No, I'm not going to move. He's sticky. He's looking at me. You can't see. I'll try and roll forward a little bit. Trigger doesn't normally roll because she's so arthritic. No. Now, if I start the engine, I think he's going to run. Let's try and... We'll try and move a little bit forward. Move a little bit forward and see if he'll stay there. There he is. He thinks we can't see him, you see, because he's exactly the same color as the tree. Amazing colors. He's not a particularly big one. I'd say they get probably another third, again, size. And he'll be loving the hot weather. The reptiles, of course, they don't mind the heat at all. They really quite enjoy it. Their bodies are designed for it. They can lose heat when they have to lose heat by going into cool spots in the shade. And they want to heat up in the sun like this. A day like this is excellent. We get one other kind of monitor here. And the other kind of monitor is called a water monitor. And that's a different sort. They live around water, obviously, but it's very similar kind of look to them. And he does look quite full. He looks like his belly is quite full. I'm not sure that isn't just the angle at which the branch is going up, and perhaps he's just trying to sort of flatten himself against the trunk of the tree so that we don't see him quite so obviously. So they're quite, I mean, the way they defend themselves, he doesn't look particularly terrifying. But what they do is they will bite viciously, and they'll also slap with their tails. Their tails can be a very nasty whip. So they're not venomous at all, but they can give a very nasty bite if you try and catch them. And they're probably just finished breeding now. We've come into the summertime. They breed in the spring. 20 to 30 eggs they'll lay down in a hole somewhere. And then the rest of the time they'll lurk about the place eating. A nice comment from Rich King. Thank you, Rich. You say their hands look quite humanoid. Yeah, I agree, you know. I mean, fairly long-nailed humans. But yeah, I see what you mean. I think it's probably the fact that upper digit there, that sort of thumb digit, looks almost opposable. It's kind of stuck up on the on the top side of the limb. You can see the ear. You can't see it yet, I can see the ear. Every time he moves his head around, yeah, I see that little dark spot on the head there is his ear. I'll try and sneak a little bit forward again. He's convinced, of course, that he's completely invisible to us. Just sneak a little bit forward. Is that right? There we go. Sorry, I dropped the clutch there. And we threw Wium clean off the car. There you can see his ear, nose and his eyes. And the merciful breeze that you can see blowing behind us, which is providing the only source of cooth at the moment. And I hope that it blows the whole day. And around about us you can probably hear the wind. You might also be able to hear the cicadas. Quite early for them to be out in the morning, but like I say, because of the heat, they will be out in full force, singing loudly to try and attract mates. And this little monitor will climb into and out of the trees. He'll fossick about in the roots, just looking for any kind of insects. He'll probably eat other lizards if he can find them. If he can find some birds' eggs, he'll probably eat those. He'll raid the odd nest hole. So we had those hornbill nests earlier, and if he was to come across a hornbill nest that he could get into, he'd most certainly go down and try and steal the chicks. Scott was monitoring, and is still monitoring, a lilac-breasted roller's nest, and before those chicks fledged, there was a big hole opening easily a monitor this size could get into. So lots to eat out here if you're prepared to eat it. Always particularly tasteful for human beings. Now he's sitting in a tree called no, he's not. He's sitting in a tree called a Peltiforum africanum, or a weeping wattle. And you can see how perfectly his sort of skin is designed to blend into the tree. I wonder how many of these things we drive past, totally unaware that they're lurking, swaying gently in the breeze like this one is. You can see there's no way of seeing him there. And Anna-Marie, yes, his claws are like sharp needles. Look at them there. Used for climbing and for catching things and for digging also. Yeah, you don't want to be scratched by those. I think they'll do some serious damage. He's definitely quite aware of the camera, though. So every time I move forward, he moves slightly more around, and I can see him. I'm looking him straight in the eye. I wonder if he isn't quite he's either camera shy. Well, I often think to the animals that the camera sitting on the back must look like an eye, and certainly it sticks out further than the rest of the car. And I think maybe animals do perceive it as a bit of an eye. Let me reverse a little bit. See if we can't get a look at the other side of him. How's that then? A little bit further. Okay. Raina, you ask a fascinating question about the eggs and the breeding, and it actually sort of inspires a whole discussion of things, and it'll link nicely into what Scott's just about to show you. So 20 or 30 eggs, I think you'll find probably less than 10% will make it to adulthood. Now, Raina, there are two different kinds of broad classifications of how animals breed. One of them is R selection and one of them is K selection. I forget exactly which one is which, but I think K selectors are those that have very few young and invest heavily in parental care to help them get through, and that would be sort of the human beings, lions, leopards, many of the mammals, even impala would be something like that. And then you get the R selectors, which would be something like the termites Scott's about to show you, which produce millions and millions of babies. absolutely had taken no care over the parental care over the alates and the knowing that many of the reproductors will be eaten, probably up to 95% of them will be eaten, but 5% are enough to keep the species going. So don't involve themselves in parental care at all. Many of the fish do that, many of the reptiles do that. Right, let's head across to Scotland's termites. The R-selecting termites. We'll carry on here. We're going to head towards quarantine clearings in the water around there and see if we can't find anything there as the heat builds. See you just now.
Welcome back, and you're looking straight down the chimney of a termitarium. Not easy business filming them. They all disappeared as you came across to us, but this is the entrance hole. And what's interesting, oh, there's the big soldier that we were hoping to show you. He's just come out for a surprise visit, and he's a monster. He's got massive teeth, and now that he's moving so quickly, making it a tricky job for Brian to film, but here we go. This is looking much better. He is on a mission, and hopefully he's going to pop out. There we go, into a great spot. Look at him drumming his head. High speed drumming, and he's coming to probably investigate us. We are obviously a risk to this termite mound, even though we aren't doing anything horrible to it. It doesn't like having these big mammals here. They are persecuted by many mammals, and they provide so much protein to the animals of this area that they do need to have necessary defense force, and this is one of those members of their soldier unit. He's a large soldier. He's got those massive chelicerae that it could clamp down onto you. And isn't it fascinating how they drum their heads to communicate with one another? He's just disappeared back into a hole though, sadly. And that's a large soldier. There's also some smaller soldiers lurking about as well. So you get different sized soldiers, and then also lots of different workers. And what's interesting, and what the reason why we actually came up to this area, is that if I put my hand over the entrance or exit to this chimney, there's incredibly warm, moist air coming out of here. Now sadly you can't feel that, and there's no way of me showing you that, but it's incredibly warm, probably around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and the termites need to keep this warm structure or warm temperature within the structure so that the fungus that they farm on their feces, look at this, awesome, so that the fungus that they farm on their feces can be farmed at the right climates. And obviously fungus likes to grow in warm, moist climates and conditions, and that's the climate that they create for their farming. Well, these are some wonderful views of this guy. We are so close to him. Wouldn't it be nice to know exactly what he's picking up, whether he's just smelling us and what he's thinking? He's clearly thinking something though, because he's communicating by those head drums that we're seeing. Cool. Well, we're going to leave these termites to their own devices, and we don't want to cause too much disruption to their day. And we're going to send you back to Hayden at the hyena den.
Well, fantastic to see that monitor lizard with James, because we don't often see those on drives, and when we do, it's great to see. There's such a beautiful reptile, and a fantastic predator as well. Being in Big Cat Week, it's all about other predators too. And then termites with Scotty, like, just so fascinating, termites, and Scotty's knowledge of termites is extraordinary. Speaking of termites, our termite mound that our hyena have their den in the old aardvark hole that they've commandeered. It sort of happened as we predicted, you know. We saw the female with her nose in the air. We saw when she stood up, I was really aware that she'd pick something up on the wind, and they do that lovely head up in the air, getting the wind or getting the scent into their olfactory system in their nose, picking up, processing that, something on the wind. She then gave the cub the signal, and she put the cub in the den, absolutely safe, and she's gone. she's gone off. She may have gone to drink, but she may have also gone to exactly what I think. Can't remember. We had so many fantastic questions. I can't remember who asked the question, but how does she eat, or do animals, do other hyenas bring food back for her? She may have gone off. So she's got something on the nose. She's picked up there's a carcass out there. She may have gone off to eat, or she may have gone off just to get a drink, because it is an absolute scorcher here. So I think we'll leave our hyena den. How fantastic have they been? What extraordinary animals, and I hope that you really enjoyed that as much as we did, because I know everyone in our final control, all the team in there, Jerry, Kirsty and everyone directing. Jerry's directing today and Kirsty directed too. It's just so, we just talk about it with so much love and passion, because we're all really connected with this hyena den. So great stuff, guys. Really lovely encounter. What a sighting that was. And you know what, we posted a little bit on Facebook. I think it was Louise, one of our team, our production team. Louise posted a little clip of Brian and I here the other day, and I think it's had about 210,000 views. So you know what? That to me is like it was Kirsty, actually. I do apologise. It was Kirsty, and hats off to Kirsty for that, because for me, basically what that is flying the flag for hyenas and showing people that, you know, that old Victorian historical sort of thing that they had, that cloud over them about these skulking scavengers that were a bit evil, is starting to erode. And I love that. And I think 210,000 views on Facebook. Kirsty, you're rock and roll, and everyone that's seen that, it's just great stuff. So spread the word, hyenas rock. Right, we're going to move on. Let's cross to see what James is up to. It's a little bit tricky to get out of here, so I don't really want you to see my fumbling as I drive and reverse my team into prickles and thorns. So let's cross to James and see what he's up to. Watch it, guys. Watch your back. Ah!
Right, back with us. We left the water monitor sitting exactly where he was as the heat is starting to swelter down on us now. If you look, I wanted to show you, where can we look? Yeah, look at this tree here. There'll be this bushel. Now you'll notice this, the little one here, just this tiny little thing here. A white berry bush. Not particularly fascinating piece of television, that, but interesting to just see how the leaves are wilting. There's very little water still in the surface, and as the heat builds, you can see the leaves closing, trying to minimize the loss of water through what we call evapotranspiration, and that's when the plant loses water through its leaves, through the little openings that it uses basically to breathe. So that's what's going on with all the trees now. And that's why you might see that they've kind of lost, they don't have the same shininess they do in the morning. That's got to do with the light changing angles, and it's also got to do with the leaves which are open after the night closing up now during the course of the day. It gets very hot. We also had a lovely view of a fish eagle flying overhead, and because there's this northerly wind blowing, it was just hanging in the sky, flying very, very slowly, and so seldom do we get to view them for any length of time. Normally they're going with the wind or circling, and it's impossible to move the camera so that you can watch this. He actually moves so beautifully across the sky. There's one for people from Europe. Irritating bird. That's the red-backed shrike, and he's just known as the shrike in the UK, as far as I'm aware. That's where he's come from. And Anthony, you weren't asking about birds, but I suppose your question could certainly apply to birds. You want to know how often new species are found. In terms of species never seen before, I think we've pretty much covered in terms of the birds and the mammals and the fish and the frogs and the reptiles. But if you were an entomologist and you came into this area and you spent enough time, I'm pretty sure that you'd find any number of insects that, while they've been classified to, say, order, so we know that they're bugs or beetles or grasshoppers or dragonflies, I think, and possibly even to genus, I think you'll find that there are probably families full of insects that we haven't discovered yet and haven't described. And then in terms of the birds, Anthony, we will every so often see birds that come through that are only seen once, or we never see again, or that are first timers and they stay. And that normally happens after some big storms. If a big storm comes in, it sometimes will blow birds in. Or if we have an unusually wet year, you'll get different birds that aren't normally here that will come and live here because the grass gets a bit longer, and so there'll be a food source that isn't normally in the area. So, Anthony, birds, main things to look out for that we haven't seen yet before, but if you're an entomologist or any other kind of invertebrate enthusiast, I think you'd be able to describe species that have never been seen before in this area. Fascinating Twitter handle from somebody called Cook Mud. We were chatting a little bit about birds. Every day I hear a new one that I think that's the best yet. I think Cook Mud, you've taken the cake pretty much today. You want to know if we get emu here? No, we don't. The African equivalent of an emu, of course, is a ostrich. So the ostrich is the largest bird in the world. An emu, if I'm not mistaken, is a South American version of the ostrich. Australian version of the ostrich. So a very dirty look there from Wium. As I said, South American, I thought that's wrong, isn't it? Anyway, we don't get emus out here, but the ostrich is a very... I can extricate myself from Jigger. It's turning into something of a prison car. You get this one, Wium? Right, this is a hibiscus. And I love this little hibiscus because it's got a bit of a naughty name, you see. It's called Hibiscus cannabinus. And as we all know, well, I'm going to bring you a piece of the leaf to show you why it's called that. Beautiful flower. And this is a young leaf. It's normally got another 2 little digits on it. What does that look like, Wium?
No idea.
No idea. I didn't think you would. The leaf actually looks like the leaf of cannabis sativa or marijuana, which does not grow naturally in this area. I suspect if you go outside the gate, there are probably vast plantations of the stuff if you look hard enough. But that's where it gets its name from, Hibiscus cannabinus. Lots of these wildflowers are very sort of, they're very short-lived, you know. They go through the summer, annuals, and then they die off. And they make their seeds and put them in the seed litter, in the seed bank, and then they come out again when it rains again and the seasons are favourable. And sometimes seeds will sit for 3 or 4 seasons before conditions are favourable again. There's another little antelope who thinks he's hiding from us. We will get it. Oh, yes, we will. You stay right where you are. Now, the duiker is actually quite an interesting animal, mainly for the fact that he's sometimes a bit of a carnivore. Now, that's not actually unusual for a lot of the antelopes. Some of them will chew on bones quite often to replace minerals. But those duiker have sometimes been seen eating at birds' nests, little chicks. It's not unusual. I saw a picture yesterday of a warthog that had killed an impala lamb, killed it, and was eating it. And because of the nutritional status of a lot of the animals out here, meat is obviously a very concentrated form of protein. And in times like this, when the grass is not perhaps growing the way it should, because of the lack of rain, you'll find that some of the herbivores will turn to carnivorism for a few, for a little while. Often it's just bone chewing. Sometimes it's carrion eating. Okay, let's head across to Hayden. He's with some teeming herds on the plains, and we'll head towards the waterhole at Gari and see you just now.
So we just left the hyena down and came back around here. The heat of the day is upon us. It's fierce. I can tell you it's probably gone from the 23 that we talked about, which is, I think it was 73 Fahrenheit. It's probably gone up towards the early 30 degrees Celsius. I just have to get final control to tell me what that is in Fahrenheit, because I'm absolutely rubbish at those conversions. But we've come around the corner here, and it's just interesting to see that you always know when it's a very hot day. There's incredibly hardy animals, these blue wildebeest, or also known as gnu's in some parts of the world. They're standing in the shade already at this time in the morning. It's only about 5 minutes to 8 here in Africa, in Sabi Sands. When they're in the shade at that time of the morning, you know it's going to be a hot one. So I don't want to go any closer and disturb them. But all of those females that are in that herd are pregnant. Nearly all of them I can see from here. There's a lot of very round bellies, and they'll be. There's one over here. There's one over here, just to the right, Andrew. It's very heavy in calf. You can see there. Very heavy, and they'll be dropping their calves very soon as well, just like the impala are dropping their lambs now. We're going to have lots of baby wildebeest here. And these wildebeest are extraordinary creatures. They can actually get up after they're born. In about 3 minutes, they can get to their feet and they can run. Now, what an adaptation that is. What a survival skill. How cool is that? They're really, really adapted to just getting on with it, having their calves and getting them up as quickly as they possibly can. And the reason for that is the greatest chance of survival is there. They're not going to fall to predators. That being said, lion, leopard, hyena, and any other predator that may fancy a wildebeest still do have a great feast on them. But, it is all part of the food chain. It's all part of the ecosystem. It's all part of how it's supposed to happen perfectly. One of the things I always say, folks, conservation is about humans, not animals. Animals look after themselves. They do it perfectly. They've been doing it for millions of years. As soon as you get these stinky little human beings in there, sometimes they're the ones that you have to manage. So conservation is about people management and the animals. As long as the animals have got the habitat, the animals will come. And it's just great to know that these beautiful, beautiful creatures have a very safe haven here in Sabi Sands. Okay, we're going to cross over to bushwalk. They've moved out of the shade, not because of us. They've just decided to move on. And we'll link over to see what Scotty's up to, and I'll come back to you to say goodbye just now.
Well, it has come to the end of the safari for the bushwalk, at least, and the tracking team. We have been unfortunate and not able to locate you guys a leopard or a lion, but we'll definitely be out again this afternoon. Jeffrey, Brights, what do you think we're going to find this afternoon? Maybe a leopard, maybe Karula, or maybe that big male?
Yeah, I believe we are going to find the Karula today.
Our luck will change.
Yes.
Good. Well, you've heard it from the experts. They feel we're going to get lucky this afternoon. Yeah. Bright, Jeffrey, thanks so much. And I'm sure everyone's enjoyed meeting you. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Bye-bye, guys. Fambagatle means go well in Shangaan. That's what Bright just said to you. And we'll see you all on the next safari.
Well, we come to the water, the last remaining water, or some of the last remaining water. And it is being frequented by some buffalo, by 2 warthogs which are now herring off across the dam there. And there are some impala and some nyala and a zebra or 2, some Egyptian geese, some oxpeckers, hippo, buffalo. It's high action here. That's the Juma Pan. Now, this water is basically what we call it's eutrophied, and that is because what does that mean is that there's a massive concentration of nutrients in there. It becomes anaerobic, in other words, there's no oxygen in it, and that's because of the dung that the buffalo and the hippo have put into it. It becomes a kind of festering nutrient pool that algae love, very few animals will be able to drink out of it fairly soon. But it's still a nice pool for them to lie in. But the elephants will specifically choose not to drink out of a pool like this. They might come and swish it about and put mud on themselves, but they won't be drinking too much from it. Buffalo don't really mind. They're more than happy to spend their days chewing the cud and lying in the water. Of course, the bigger you are, the more difficult it is for you to lose heat, but of course the slower you heat up. And buffalo weighs about 800 kilograms. The hippo probably weighs in the region of 2 tons, or 2,000 kilograms. He's just flapping his tail there, you can see every so often. It really is suboptimal habitat for a hippo. They like to be fully covered with just their noses, eyes and ears sticking out. And I think that no one will be more grateful for rain than this hippo, so that he can perhaps move back to the river, on the Sand River, where there are lots of nice pools for him to lie in. And so, when it gets dry like this, the bulls who are not dominant in the area, they will have to come and live in these suboptimal habitats. And then when the river starts to flow properly again, they'll be able to go down into the Sand River and find a little spot for themselves and remain cool throughout the day. This is not an easy time for them. Right, we're going to sign off from you. Thank you, Wium, for your efforts today. Thank you to the final control of Jerry and Kirsty on the skeleton crew, and of course to Hayden, and I think he's being filmed by the drone commander, Andrew Francis. Big thanks to Bushwalk, of course, and the trackers. They do a huge amount of work, and we're very grateful for what they do. Mostly thanks to all of you for your questions and comments. It really is so wonderful to interact with you all over the world as we drive around in this, what is going to be a blazing day. We'll see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Watch us on TV or on the internet tonight, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Well, folks, it's been an amazing drive this morning. I have to say it's been one of my most enjoyable drives I've done in a long time. The questions were superb, the interaction was fantastic, and that's what SafariLIVE is all about. It's about showing you this magnificent part of the world and hopefully stimulating to flick that love nature switch in you, your kids, your family, your friends. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Susan from California asked if we continue SafariLIVE after Big Cat Week. Absolutely, Susan. It continues morning and afternoon every day of the year with an incredible team of people. I go back to the UK, but I come down as much as I possibly can. But you've got an incredible team of people here, dedicated, passionate, tight team that I'm really proud to be a part of. So, yep, every afternoon, Susan from California. Now, we are going to be back out this afternoon again. I'll be in the tent bringing you tidbits of information from the Skull Hut or the lab or whatever you want to call it. The guys will be out on drive. We'll have trackers out. We'll have the drone in the sky with Commander Andrew Francis. It's all going to be fantastic, and I hope you can join us again in the afternoon. This is Africa, folks. See you next time on SafariLIVE.